Chapter 406. Master, this is very simple. You just need to cultivate the grass soul seed and it will run to the flying corpse. The little baby's voice sounded in Yunjioga's mind. Isn't the grass soul seed only used to cultivate corpses? How can it be used on fiend corpses? Yunjioga was confused. Originally it wouldn't work, but I recently poured some secret medicine on it. Whether it's a corpse or a fiend corpse, it's all the same to it. If Master's luck is good and the grass soul seed can swallow the flying corpse, you'll have a ready-made flying corpse little brother. In order to perform well in front of his master, the little baby also put in a lot of effort to cultivate the grass soul seed. Otherwise, if it only knew how to pour water, it wouldn't be qualified to be his master's magic treasure. The previous owner was very cruel and would never raise useless things. Then hurry up and cultivate the grass soul seed. Yunjioga was excited. Master, you just need to send in another 1,000 baleful beads and I can immediately cultivate the grass soul seed for you, the little baby vowed. No problem. Yunjioga was full of fighting spirit. He looked at the golden corpse on the ground as if he was looking at a treasure. He picked up the evil knife and started digging. After he was done, he sneaked over to Cho-sen to fish in troubled waters. At this time, Cho-sen and the disciples of the 5 sects were fighting the flying corpses with all their might. They didn't care about these baleful beads. Yunjioga very smoothly dug out 1,000 baleful beads and sent them into the demonic cauldron. The little baby happily took the grass soul seed and then arranged it into a formation. He muttered, "Baby, baby, grow up quickly. When you grow up, you'll become a demon doll. You'll eat meat and drink blood. You'll eat bones and souls." Such evil words made Yunjioga speechless. He felt that the grass soul seed would be planted crookedly by the little baby, but he couldn't care too much in this situation. As the little baby muttered, the grass soul seed slowly sprouted and turned into a palm-sized gray person. It had a round head, a short neck, a round body, thin arms, and thin legs. It looked quite cute. However, the gray round face had no facial features. It looked a bit strange. Master, hurry up and drip blood to make it recognize you as its master. Then you can let it eat the flying corpse, the little baby hurried. Yunjioga bit his index finger and gave a drop of blood to the demonic tripod. The little adorable child held the drop of blood and placed it on the face of the little gray person. Its facial features gradually appeared. It was exquisite and beautiful, and its temperament was outstanding. It looked exactly the same as Yunjioga. Why does he look like me? Yunjioga felt strange. After drinking your blood, of course I'll look like you. Master's blood is the most powerful, the little baby said matter-of-factly. Back then, it had attached itself to the black-skinned mouse to search for its master. Because it had been too long, it had become muddle-headed. In the end, it had to drink a drop of its master's blood to awaken completely. What should we do next? Let them out and bite the flying corpses? Yunjioga felt that it was better not to dwell on these details. In any case, it was fine as long as they could catch the flying corpse. Of course not. The little cute baby grabbed the little gray person, then looked at the gaze and said excitedly, "Now is not the time." Yunjioga suspiciously followed the little baby's gaze and saw that the flying corpse in the air had been scattered by Cho-sen. It could die at any moment. But Cho-sen did not relax his vigilance. Instead he gathered everyone together and warned, "The flying corpse will go berserk when it's about to die. This is the hardest time to deal with, so you must be careful." As soon as his voice fell, the flying corpse's hazy figure was suddenly filled with a blood mist. Then it turned into gold, silver, copper, and iron colors and charged forward at an even faster speed. The disciples of the 5 sects were already prepared and immediately hid behind the monster monkey corpses. They never thought that the flying corpse would grab the 2 monster monkey corpses and instantly tear them to pieces. Cho-sen's pupils shrank. Although he already knew that the flying corpse's dying strike would be very terrifying, he never thought it would be this terrifying. He gritted his teeth and gathered the monster monkey-eaten corpses together, compressing them into a line of defense in front of the 5 sect's disciples, allowing them to continue their attack. But the berserk flying corpse was very strong. It fought the monster monkey-eaten corpses with its bare hands, just like a lion entering a flock of sheep. What was even more terrifying was that the weapons of the 5 sect's disciples could only leave shallow marks on its body. Most of Mo Jingyuan's bone dragon was scattered by the flying corpse's palm. Cho Sen's blood-sucking bat was also thrown into its mouth and was bitten to pieces with a kacha sound. Following that, 3 more male disciples were caught by the flying corpse and eaten, even their souls were swallowed. 12 of the 32 monster monkey-eaten corpses had been destroyed and the remaining ones were missing arms and legs. They could only barely maintain a defensive barrier to block the golden corpse's attack. After the flying corpse ate the flesh, the killing intent on its body became even stronger. It was comparable to a late golden core stage cultivator, making people feel despair. Even Cho Sen felt a bit regretful. "Elder, please let us go, I don't want to die here." Feng Ling air collapsed as she cried. "Elder, where there's life, there's hope. These flying corpses are too strong and we're not its match. How about we return to the safe zone and discuss countermeasures?" Si Yuyue couldn't help saying. The disciples of the 5 sects had already collapsed. If they continued, they would be completely wiped out. There's no turning back now. Cho Sen gritted his teeth and said, "This flying corpse is sinister and cunning, it's cruel and cold. If we turn around and run now, we'll only be swallowed by it." The disciples of the 5 sects were in despair. There were even a few people who were paralyzed on the ground, already waiting for death. Zishang and Yusha quickly returned to Yunjioga's side, preparing to bring Yunjioga back to the safe zone if the situation turned bad. Yunjioga looked at such a strong and terrifying flying corpse and felt his scalp go numb. This was a monster that was impossible to destroy. Could the grass soul seed really swallow him? At this moment, the little baby's excited voice suddenly sounded, "All right, we can go." "Hey, wait." Yunjioga quickly stopped him, but it was too late. The little baby excitedly threw the little gray person in his hand out, turning into a gray light that drilled into the flying corpse amidst the rain of blood. The light on the flying corpse's body immediately increased, as if it had fallen into chaos. "It's starting to eat, it's starting to eat." The little baby clapped his hands and shouted, just short of cheering for the grass soul seed. "Is it really effective?" Yunjioga found it hard to believe that such a powerful flying corpse was really going to be destroyed. "Of course, don't you know who planted it?" The little baby looked proud. Yunjioga was happy at first, but then he realized a very serious problem. After the grass soul seed swallows the flying corpse, will it immediately recognize me as its master? Of course, the grass soul seed is as loyal to you as I am to you. The little baby took the opportunity to confess, but Yunjioga's face was crumbling. If this flying corpse recognized her as its boss in front of Cho Sen and the disciples of the 5 sects, then everyone would know that she had a secret. Wasn't that courting death? Chapter 407. I can only use it at this time. The little baby felt wronged. Although the grass soul seed it cultivated was very powerful, it couldn't kill the flying corpse at its peak. It could only attack when the flying corpse was at its weakest. "Then can you let the flying corpse leave first? At least don't come to me in front of so many people." Yunjioga took a step back. "I'll give it a try." The little baby closed his eyes and began to mutter again. After a while, he said apologetically, "I can't." "Why?" Yunjioga frowned. If it really recognized him as its master, then it should be very obedient. Because the grass soul seed failed to devour and the flying corpse is about to explode. The little baby said with a serious face. "Fuck." Yunjioga's eyes widened as he looked over. He saw the flying corpse in the sky flickering with 4 colors, gold, silver, copper, and iron. The red light on its chest was so hot that it looked like a small red sun, emitting a terrifying light. Cho Sen's face revealed a frightened expression. He immediately had the demon monkey Yin corpse lead the disciples of the 5 sects to quickly retreat. Zishang rushed over like lightning, grabbing Yunjioge and leaving in the opposite direction. Yu Sha also desperately followed. The two of them were faster than everyone else, and in the blink of an eye, they were several miles away from the flying corpse. They never thought that after the flying corpse let out a pained and angry roar, it would use a desperate stance to fly towards Yunjioge. With a loud bang, the explosion of the flying corpse sent all the nearby golden corpses flying. Wolf Fang and the others who were several miles away were also blown away by the blast. When they got up, they saw a large crater in the distance. Junior brother Yunjio, junior brother Yunjio. Wolf Fang shouted with a hoarse voice, but no one answered. Jin Chuan and the others all had heavy expressions. They knew that Yunjioge must have been blown to pieces. Cho Sun stood beside the large crater with an ashen face. His eyes were bloodshot and his fists were tightly clenched. He didn't care if Yunjioge was dead or alive. He was just sad that he had carefully planned everything, but he still couldn't get the flying corpse's blood fiend bead. Elder, the flying corpse exploding was unexpected. Let's go back and think of a countermeasure. We'll come back next time. Si Yuyue comforted him. Let's return to the safe zone. Cho Sun exhaled heavily, turned around, and left. No matter what, he had already accumulated experience in dealing with flying corpses. When the fiend corpse secret territory opened again, he would definitely be able to successfully obtain the bloody fiend pearl. Before Si Yuyue left, she took one last look at the crater. She could not help but sigh in her heart. Yunjioge had died at such a young age. Yunjioge woke up in a daze and found himself lying on a patch of grass in a small forest. She looked at the cold sky above her head in confusion. She was surrounded by long grass, a green forest on her left, and a stream on her right. His nose was no longer filled with the disgusting stench of the fiend corpse secret realm, but with the smell of grass and soil. Could she have already left the fiend corpse secret realm? No, she remembered that in the fiend corpse secret realm, the flying corpses had rushed in front of them and exploded. Zishang hugged her and took all the damage. Then, he fell into the distorted space with her. Decease, decease. Yunjioge shouted in panic. Don't shout so loudly. I'm fine. A weak voice sounded in Yunjioge's mind. Yunjioge quickly rolled up her sleeves. The purple mark on her wrist was still there, but the color was very dim. No matter what, as long as Zishang was still alive, it was fine. What was that flying corpse explosion? Zishang thought of the flying corpse's desperate stance and suspected that something had happened to Yunjioge. It's that stupid little baby. He said that the grass soul seed he cultivated could devour flying corpses. Thinking of this, Yunjioge wanted to beat the little baby up. Little Menghua, you know what to do. Something must have happened. Zishang did not intend to blame little Menghua. I'll call it out and ask. Yunjioge was about to contact the demonic tripod when she realized in horror that her meridians were in chaos. The 9-layer bone-shattering poison in her dantian spread throughout her body, completely blocking the circulation of spiritual power. Not only had she lost contact with the demonic tripod, but she could not open her storage bag either. Even worse, her disguise had been removed. She had returned to her female appearance. It blocked the explosion for us. It probably hasn't recovered yet, Zishang comforted Yunjioge. Your injury is only temporary. Don't worry too much. If you're a girl, then so be it. There have been cases of men turning into women in the corpse sect, Zishang comforted Yunjioge. The illusion grass he had given Yunjioge was limited. Yunjioge could not be a man forever. She would have to find a chance to change sex. Fortunately, this was not rare in the evil sect. All right. Yunjioge did not know what to say anymore. She felt pain all over her body, especially her left leg, which was excruciating. Did you break a bone? Zishang noticed Yunjioge's abnormality. I think so. Yunjioga gasped as he carefully rolled up his trouser leg. His fair calf had been fractured and deformed. Ah, Zishang was seriously injured. Her cultivation was gone and her leg was disabled. She couldn't be more miserable. It's okay. When I recover, everything will be better. Zishang's voice was very calm and firm. Okay. Yunjioga quickly calmed down after her panic. She searched the ground for a relatively large tree branch. Then, she tore off the hem of her gown. She clenched her teeth and straightened her leg bone. Only then did she tie it up tightly. After doing all this, she was sweating profusely. Leave this forest after daybreak. Find someone to ask about the situation as soon as possible, Zishang said. There's not much time left until daybreak. I'll leave now. Yunjioga used 2 thick branches as crutches to get up with difficulty. Then, she walked upstream along the stream. After walking for about an hour, when the sun was in the middle of the sky, Yunjioga finally saw a small village in the distance. She immediately became spirited. As long as there were people, they would know what this place was. If she could find some spirit grass to suppress the poison in her body, she would be able to use the things in the storage bag. Don't rush in. Let's check the situation first. Zishang stopped Yunjioga's excited footsteps. Okay. Yunjioga calmed herself down and sneakily walked along the remote path towards the village. It was broad daylight, but there was not a single person in the village. It was eerily quiet. When she reached the center of the village, she heard a sorrowful voice. Great messenger, please let my daughter live. She's still young. She's still young. Shut up. If you dare to stop me again, I'll kill your entire village. An arrogant voice rang out. Yunjioga hid nearby and peeked out. The scene in front of her immediately shocked her. Chapter 408. In the middle of the village stood a group of dark blue armed soldiers. In the middle was a black-robed, shifty-eyed middle-aged man. The black-robed emissary was holding on to an 8-year-old girl with a sluggish expression as if she had been hypnotized. In front of them was a group of villagers kneeling and begging for mercy. Among them, a village woman in tattered clothes was kowtowing and begging for mercy. From the looks of it, it was her child who had been kidnapped. Yunjioga was not surprised by the act of forcibly kidnapping a civilian girl. What surprised her was that these people looked very different from ordinary people. They all had light gray skin, slightly red eyes, and light purple lips. Among these people, the villagers had the darkest skin, which was dark gray. Their lips were also very dark. The soldiers' skin was brownish gray, while the black-robed emissaries was light gray. The 8-year-old girl's skin was slightly white, and her eyes were black and bright. She looked very similar to the humans outside. Although these people's strange skin made them look like they were terminally ill, their loud cries and curses showed that they were very healthy. Yunjioga looked down at her pale palms. Even though she still had a Tomane face, she was much more normal than those natives. These people are strange. Don't come into contact with them. Let's leave this place first. Zishang said. Before figuring out the strangeness of this place, he would rather have Yunjioga hide in a corner and slowly wait for her injuries to heal than let her come into contact with these dangerous people. No rush. Let's wait and see. Yunjioga finally met someone. How could she bear to leave without getting some information? Sir Emissary, you don't have to care about these unruly people. Let's take this seed back first. The soldier leader said fawningly. They did not care about these unruly people. You guys do as you see fit. The black-robed emissary nodded. This time, the edict required him to collect 16 little girls. He had only completed half of the task. He still had work to do. Cui cui. The skinny village woman saw her daughter being taken away and let out a heart-wrenching wail. Probably because the hearts of mother and daughter were connected, the originally sluggish little girl trembled and suddenly woke up. Seeing that her mother was blocked by a group of strangers, she let out a sorrowful scream. A gray aura suddenly rose from her dantian and spread throughout her body. Her originally fair skin began to turn gray, her eyes red, and her lips purple, just like her mother. Yunjyoga's pupils constricted. She could clearly see that the little girl's body had suddenly exploded with a murderous aura. Could it be that the villagers also had murderous aura? If they were affected by the baleful aura, why didn't they die? Damn it! When the black-robed messenger saw the little girl's skin turn gray, he immediately raised his hand in rage and slapped the little girl away. Tsuetsue. Tsuetsue's mother scrambled over to pick up her daughter. Her heart ached as she looked at the gray blood oozing out of the corners of her mouth and nose. Lord Envoy, we've lost another good seed. What should we do? The leader of the soldiers was also anxious. This was the best seed they had found during this period of time. They didn't expect it to be contaminated at this critical moment. The black-robed emissary glared at the villagers with his triangular eyes. A vicious glint flashed across his eyes as he coldly spat out a line of words, "Contaminated seeds must be washed clean with blood." Yes. When the soldiers heard this order, they immediately nodded. They drew out the long sabers from their waists and pointed them at the villagers. Lord, spare us! Lord, spare us! The villagers cried out in panic. Seeing that a massacre was about to begin, Yunjyoga's heart skipped a beat. She wanted to stop this tragedy from happening. But now that her cultivation base had disappeared, she was weaker than a chicken. How could she have the ability to fight back? At this critical moment, a group of masked men in gray robes sped over from afar. Each of them wielded a chilling long sword. The moment they landed, they began fighting with the soldiers. It's the Revolutionary Army. The Revolutionary Army is here to save us. When the villagers saw the group of men in gray robes, they were instantly invigorated. Some of the strong men even picked up their weapons and joined in the battle. Both sides were in a mess. Unruly peasants, you're courting death. The black-robed emissary took out a black, withered claw and shot out a black-red beam of light at the villager who was charging at the front. That villager cried out in pain as he was instantly engulfed by the black-red beam of light. Magic weapon. Yunjyoga nearly cried out. If there were magic weapons in this world, there should be cultivators too. If they were used well, there would be great benefits. After killing the villagers, the black-robed emissary revealed a smug smile. He wanted to use the same trick on those masked men in gray robes. However, a sword beam shot out from the leader's hand, chopping off the black-robed emissary's arm. The black-robed emissary let out a tragic cry. That withered claw and the magic weapon immediately fell to the ground along with his severed arm. They were snatched away by another gray-robed man. The situation was instantly reversed. The black-robed emissary and the soldiers were all killed. We can't hide the black-robed emissary's matter. You have to leave immediately. Otherwise, it will be too late when the imperial court sends troops to massacre the village. The leader of the gray-robed men said to the villagers. Boo-hoo-hoo. It's going to be winter soon. Where can we go? That's right. There's no farmland and no food. How can we survive? When the villagers heard that they had to leave the place they relied on for survival, they began to cry. Everyone, don't worry. Our Revolutionary Army has built a city in Mount Daqing. You can continue living there. The gray-robed leader consoled them. Thank you, sir. We will follow you. The villagers knew that killing the black-robed emissary would not end well. All of them agreed to leave with the Revolutionary Army. Sir, help me take a look at Tsuetsue. She hasn't reacted after being beaten. Could something have happened to her? Tsuetsue's mother squeezed in with her child in her arms. The gray-robed leader glanced at the child and consoled her, it's fine. She just awakened and hasn't adapted to her body's condition. She will be fine soon. Thank you, thank you. Tsuetsue's mother finally felt relieved as she carried her child. Yun-jyoga shrank into a corner, guessing the relationship between seeds, awakening, emissaries, and the revolutionary army. Suddenly, Zi Shang warned, "Not good. We've been discovered." Yun-jyoga was alarmed. She wanted to escape, but it was already too late. The gray-robed leader suddenly turned around and shouted, "Who's there?" Before he finished speaking, he appeared in front of Yun-jyoga. Then, he looked at her and shouted in shock, "Woman, seed." What? Yun-jyoga was stunned. How did she become a seed? She really is a seed. A group of people surrounded her and looked at Yun-jyoga as if she was a monster. "Miss, you also escaped, right? How pitiful. You even broke your leg. Those damned bastards will suffer retribution sooner or later." Tsuetsue's mother cursed. Yun-jyoga looked at everyone's sympathetic eyes and wisely chose to shut her mouth. She was prepared to act according to the situation. Chapter 409. Take her back and bandage her wounds, the leader in gray ordered. Don't be afraid, with the revolutionary army around, those bastards won't be able to find trouble with you. Tsuetsue's mother called a few women to help Yun-jyoga into the house and started to clean her wounds. Yun-jyoga saw that these women were efficient and took out the right herbs, so she obediently bandaged their wounds. "Miss, do you not remember the past?" Tsuetsue's mother asked for a long time without getting any response, so she immediately found the reason for Yun-jyoga. She was just about to doze off and someone sent her a pillow. Yun-jyoga nodded without hesitation. "Those bastards must have fed you the water of oblivion. They want you to forget everything that happened in the past so they can do whatever they want." Yun-jyoga finally figured out the truth about the seed while Cui-cui's mother was scolding him. It turned out that in this world, status was determined by the color of one's skin. The darker the skin, the lower the status. The lighter the skin, the higher the status. If one had fair skin, they could enter the palace to be a concubine. At first, everyone thought it was a great honor, so they would take good care of fair-skinned girls, hoping that they would be sent to the palace to be a noble by the time they turned 16. However, the soil here was very strange. Once a girl passed the age of 8, her skin would slowly turn gray. It was rare for a fair-skinned noble to live until 16. White-skinned nobles were very delicate. Not only did they have little strength, they were easily injured, and their bodies were very weak. They couldn't do any heavy work, so it was difficult for them to live until 16. However, although the fair-skinned nobles were physically weak, they were all very intelligent and had a high status in their families. Even if they didn't enter the palace, they could still lead their families to the top. Some especially powerful ones were not only the family's favorites, but they could even become popular in the whole village or town. Until one day, a rich family secretly hid a fair-skinned noble in their family, and the whole family was executed. Only then did everyone know that their pampered fair-skinned daughters weren't sent to the palace to be concubines, but to be the seeds of the devil. All of them died tragically in the palace. From then on, the number of fair-skinned women decreased rapidly. Other than those black-hearted people who wanted to trade their children for wealth, no one with a conscience was willing to send their pampered children to die in the palace. Even the white-skinned children would try their best to awaken into gray-skinned people when they grew up. The palace couldn't get enough white-skinned women, so they started to plunder them. They didn't even let off 8-year-old children who hadn't grown up. The imperial court was in chaos, and the people had no way to make a living. Those corrupt officials exploited the people in the name of searching for seeds, and they even found excuses to slaughter wantonly and seize their wealth. They were incomparably cruel. It was at this time that the revolutionary army appeared. They went around saving the white-skinned women, killing those cruel envoys and helping the people arrange a place to stay. Don't be afraid, young lady. Although it's a little difficult for you to awaken at this age, there are many capable people in the revolutionary army. They will definitely have a way to help you awaken. When the time comes, you'll turn into gray skin like us. You won't have to worry about being sent to the palace to be defiled. Tsuetsue's mother comforted her. Yun-jyoga was not a native, so how could he awaken? He could only remain silent. This place is very strange. Zishang's voice rang out again. The baleful aura on them is the same as the one in the Fiend Corp's secret realm. It's very likely that they're the descendants of the cultivators who were trapped in the Fiend Corp's secret realm. If you want to leave this place, you'll have to go to the palace to find clues. I have a feeling that the Emperor isn't looking for the white-skinned women just to be defiled. Even if you want to enter the palace, you'll have to wait until I recover my cultivation. Otherwise, I'll just be courting death. From the attitude of those soldiers, it was obvious that they didn't take the white-skinned people seriously. Of course. Zishang also needed to hurry up and recover. If anything happened, he wouldn't be able to save Yunjioge in time. The gray-skinned people's medicine was very good. Yunjioge's broken bones healed very quickly. During this time, the Revolutionary Army had been helping Xiaogao village prepare to move. Every household packed everything they could use and carried them on their backs. They didn't even let a rotten pot go. After Yunjioge recovered, she followed the Revolutionary Army and the villagers to the deep mountains. The mountain path was steep, and it was difficult to walk. Not to mention, these villagers all had their families with them. Every one of them was carrying a few big bags. However, they walked like the wind and didn't look tired at all. Even Cui Cui, who had just awakened, could carry her own little goat and follow behind the group. On the contrary, Yunjioge was the weakest cultivator. Cui Cui's mother even comforted her, saying that she was much stronger than the ordinary white-skinned nobles. Before her daughter awakened, she would be exhausted after walking on flat ground for a few minutes, let alone carrying a little goat on a mountain path. Yunjioge originally thought that after he cultivated the 10,000 beasts art, his body was much stronger than a normal person's. However, in front of these gray-skinned aunties, it was nothing. Zishang, these gray-skinned people are too powerful. After awakening, they have great strength, never fall sick, and their reproductive ability is also very strong. They can be considered an excellent evolution. Why does the Emperor here classify the gray-skinned people as inferior people and the white-skinned people as superior? Yunjioge felt that it was very strange. These gray-skinned people were just normal people, and they were already so powerful. If they were good seedlings, wouldn't they be even more powerful? If they were trained well, they could definitely raise a very terrifying army. They would definitely be fought over by the big sects outside. I think it's strange too. I guess we can only find out the secret of this place after we enter the palace. Zishang had recovered a little after this period of time, but he still couldn't show himself and follow Yunjioge. If this place really is related to the Fiend Corp's hidden realm, what if we can't leave in time for the hidden realm to open? Yunjioge was worried when he thought about this. There were only 7 days left until the Fiend Corp's hidden realm opened. Our lives are more important. Let's take it one step at a time. Zishang was not in a hurry. If worst came to worst, he could just stay here until the next time the Fiend Corp's hidden realm opened. I don't have that much time to waste in this damn place. Yunjioge thought about it and decided to talk to the leader of the rebel army. If they could come to an agreement, it would be even better. With the help of Cui Cui's mother, Yunjioge finally got the chance to meet the leader of the rebel army. After dinner, Cui Cui's mother brought Yunjioge to a tent. She whispered, "The leader is inside. If you have any problems, talk to him. He will definitely help you." "Thank you." Yunjioge smiled at Cui Cui's mother gratefully and walked into the tent alone. There was a tall, muscular man standing inside. He wore a bronze mask, so his face could not be seen. His voice was also very cold. "I heard you wanted to talk to me about something." "Yes, leader. Although I have lost my memory, I still vaguely remember that there is a very important sister among the white-skinned people who were captured with me. I want to go back and save her. Please help me." Yunjioge looked at the leader with sincerity. Chapter 410. You want to go back? The leader was taken aback. He had never seen a white-skinned woman who had escaped the clutches of a demon and then returned. Yes. Yunjioga nodded vigorously and said righteously, the emperor is cruel and the people have no way to make a living. I don't want others to suffer like me. She did not believe that the leader of the rebel army did not want to overthrow the tyranny and sit on the highest position. The leader's eyes flashed with a strange light. He sized Yunjioga up as if he had just met her, then said, but if you enter the harem, you are likely to die. Death is inevitable. Death can be as heavy as Mount Tai, or as light as a feather. It depends on how you use it, Yunjioga said firmly. In order to leave this damned place as soon as possible, she had to enter the palace and find out the truth as soon as possible. Good. The leader could not help but clap his hands and praise her. He said, since you have such a great ambition, I will definitely help you achieve your wish. Thank you, leader. I hope you can arrange for me to enter the palace as soon as possible. Yunjioga bowed and left the tent. The leader stood in place for a moment and then said, Bye, what do you think? This Miss Yun has great ambition. She is admirable. A clear voice sounded. A man in a black robe and a white mask appeared in the originally empty tent. Could she be sent from the other side? The leader asked again. Probably not. This girl has no cultivation at all. Moreover, she has a strange poison in her body. Maybe she knows that she will not live for long, so she wants to sacrifice herself, the white-masked man said. In that case, send her to the palace and find someone to watch over her, the leader nodded. That lunatic had not obtained an adult seed for a long time. He would be very satisfied to see this Miss Yun. I'll follow your orders. The white-masked man bowed and left. In a tent not far from the leader, Yunjioga was taking a nap. After the person watching her left, she called out to the mark, Zishang, have you found any clues? The leader's cultivation is in the foundation establishment stage. He has a black-robed messenger with him who is in the middle stage of the foundation establishment stage. They have already made plans to send you to the palace tomorrow. Zishang had just recovered a little of his cultivation when he was forced by Yunjioga to eavesdrop. It seems that the true identity of this rebel army leader is not simple. He was even able to hook up with the black-robed emissary who is in the middle stage of foundation establishment. The black-robed envoy that Yunjioga had seen before was only at the second level of the qi refining stage. He must have a high status in the intermediate foundation establishment stage. These are none of your business. Quickly lie down. I'll help you unblock your meridians and see if I can suppress the poison. Compared to these, Zishang was more worried about Yunjioga's health. Okay. Yunjioga quickly lay down. A moment later, a familiar aura entered her meridians from the mark. After circulating for a while, it returned to her dantian. Although the chaotic toxins did not disappear, the spiritual energy in her dantian finally came out a little, and she could finally open the storage bag. Yunjioga took out a bottle of spirit-strengthening pills from the magical bottomless bag and swallowed a whole bottle. The spiritual energy in her elixir field grew a lot stronger. At the very least, she could control a wicked blade to fly. Don't take out the evil blade so easily to avoid arousing suspicion. Didn't you concoct a lot of knockout pills and poison pills before? Just use those to protect yourself. Zishang said. Alright. Yunjioga took out the knockout pills and poison pills and hid them well. She then asked Zishang, do you want to take some spiritual pills to replenish your energy? Your spiritual pills are useless to me. You'll be doing me a great favor if you rest well. As long as Zishang recuperated well in the mark, the recovery effect would not be worse than taking a spiritual pill. Okay, then I'll sleep. Yunjioga was indeed tired, and she fell asleep quickly. Early the next morning, Yunjioga was arranged to sit in a low-key carriage, separated from the villagers of Xiaogao village. In addition to the silent coachman, there was a short, chubby elderly lady with gray skin who was dressed very well. Her cultivation was at the third level of the qi refining stage. The chubby elderly lady's eyes were not big, but they were very sharp. Ordinary people would not dare to look at them directly. Unfortunately, Yunjioga was not an ordinary person, so she asked calmly, "You must be the elderly lady sent by the leader to serve me." The word serve made the chubby elderly lady's eyelids twitch, but she still replied respectfully, "My surname is Wang. You can call me Elderly Lady Wang." "Elderly Lady Wang, thank you for taking care of me along the way." Yunjioga smiled faintly. She had recovered some of her cultivation, and she was not really going to enter the palace to sacrifice herself, so she did not think much of Elderly Lady Wang. Elderly Lady Wang had not seen a white-skinned woman like Yunjioga for many years. She originally wanted to show her strength, but now she immediately changed her attitude and tried to please her. It turned out that the leader had arranged a fake identity for Yunjioga. She was a noble lady from a small city with the surname Yun, and was specially sent to the palace in exchange for glory and wealth. "Miss Yun, the great Zhou dynasty has not seen a white-skinned noble lady like you for a long time. You will definitely be appreciated by the emperor this time." Elderly Lady Wang smiled flatteringly. "What kind of person is the current emperor?" Yunjioga asked curiously. Elderly Lady Wang laughed bitterly and said, "People of our status are not qualified to meet the emperor. In fact, the great Zhou dynasty's emperor, who was obsessed with white-skinned noble ladies, rarely appeared in front of people. Even when he appeared, he wore a black mask. Even the imperial court officials did not know what he looked like." "A mask again?" Yunjioga remembered the bronze mask worn by the leader. It seemed that this was a local characteristic. Elderly Lady Wang continued to talk about some precautions when entering the palace. There weren't too many rules in the palace. The only thing one had to pay attention to was not to be curious and not to walk around carelessly in the palace. As for the rest of the clothing, food, housing, and transportation, they were very casual, unlike the human race who had rules for eating, dressing, and traveling. Yunjioga fell asleep with Elderly Lady Wang's nagging. She arrived at the capital the next afternoon. The capital here was very prosperous. There were many shops, and people came and went. Most of the well-dressed people had light gray skin, but all of them were wearing makeup. It was indescribably strange. Although Yunjioga was a white-skinned person, she could not enter the palace directly. She had to report to the camp of the black-robed messenger. The leader of the black-robed messenger was an old man with graying temples who was at the 12th level of the qi refining stage. When he saw Yunjioga, his eyes lit up as if he had seen a treasure. He said in disbelief, "Such a good seed." After that, he wanted to pull her sleeve to see if she was really a white-skinned person. Presumptuous. Yunjioga avoided the black-robed messenger and said to Elderly Lady Wang in displeasure, "Why did you send me to such a strange place? I didn't expect it to be like this. Please forgive me, young Mississippi." Elderly Lady Wang quickly begged for mercy. Then she turned to the black-robed messenger and scolded him rudely, "How dare you offend a noble lady? Do you believe that I won't report this and skin you alive?" Chapter 411. "Old slave, how dare you be so impudent in front of me? Do you want to die?" The black-robed leader's face was dark. He had relied on killing and robbing to obtain the white-skinned people, so he was used to being unreasonable in front of them. This was the first time he had met someone who was even more unreasonable than him. "I think you're the one who doesn't want to live. It's because of your villain's misdeeds that there are fewer and fewer fair-skinned nobles. You should be thrown into prison." Mammy Wang scolded with her hands on her hips. "Men, take her down." The black-robed leader wasn't a pushover either. He immediately ordered his soldiers to take down Granny Wang so that he could make an example of Yunjioga. "Let's see who dares touch her." Yunjioga took a step forward and stood in front of Granny Wang. He was so domineering that none of the soldiers dared to approach. "How dare you? Don't think that I'm afraid of you just because you're a white-skinned person. If you don't move, I'll capture you as well." A fierce light flashed in the black-robed envoy's eyes. Although this seed was very rare, she was too unruly. If she really became the leader, the black-robed envoy group would have a hard time dealing with her. After all, searching for the white-skinned people was a good job. Every time they went on a business trip, they could earn quite a bit of money. How could they let someone ruin it? The soldiers had done many bad things with the black-robed envoy, so they didn't dare disobey their leader's orders. They immediately raised their blades and approached Yunjioga. Yunjioga placed his hand on his waist and was about to sprinkle the knockout drug when he heard Granny Wang suddenly shout, "Murder! The black-robed envoy wants to kill the white-skinned nobles. Old slave, shout all you want. Let's see who dares to interfere," the black-robed leader said fiercely. Unexpectedly, just as he finished speaking, there was a commotion at the camp's entrance. A tall and mighty man in golden armor with a dark gray face rushed in with a group of soldiers. They immediately took down the soldiers who were threatening Yunjioga. "Your Highness, this is the black-robed envoy's camp. Why are you charging in with your soldiers? Are you trying to rebel?" the black-robed leader roared angrily. "Imperial brother ordered you to come out and find the white-skinned nobles, but you disobeyed on the surface. You even want to kill the nobles." The man called War King waved his hand and ordered the soldiers behind him, "Arrest these traitors for me. I'm loyal to His Majesty. You can't slander me." The black-robed leader panicked. Unfortunately, he was taken down before he could say anything. Seeing that the situation was not good, the other soldiers immediately threw away the swords in their hands and surrendered. At this moment, Zishang's voice suddenly rang out in Yunjioga's ears, "This War King is the leader of the Revolutionary Army." "It's him." Yunjioga raised his brows. He couldn't help but carefully size up this War King. He was extremely tall, at least 8 feet tall. His skin was dark gray and shone with a metallic luster. His lips were also very dark. However, his eyes were not red. Instead, they were black and white, emitting a cold and murderous light. In this place where white skin was considered beautiful, War King's skin was obviously looked down upon. It was no wonder that the black-robed leader wasn't afraid of him. The War King noticed that Yunjioga was scrutinizing him. A stiff smile appeared on his cold and stiff face as he said, "I apologize for startling the noble one. It is this humble king's negligence. Your Highness, War King is too polite. If you hadn't arrived in time, I'm afraid that something bad would have happened to me," Yunjioga replied politely. "Your Highness, this place is far too dangerous. Please arrange for us to enter the palace as soon as possible," Granny Wang said fearfully. "Don't worry, noble one. This humble king will definitely arrange for you to enter the palace as soon as possible. Before that, noble one, please stay at this humble king's place for a few days." With that, the War King immediately arranged for people to escort Yunjioga to his War King's palace. Today's show was clearly arranged by the War King. Be careful. Don't be betrayed by him. Zishang's tone became much more serious. We still don't know who's being betrayed. Yunjioga wasn't worried. After all, they were just using each other. She knew everything about the War King, but he knew nothing about her. In the end, she was still better. The War King didn't return to the War King's palace. Instead, he secretly went to a remote residence. The white-masked black-robed envoy was already waiting there. "That Lady Yun is quite something. Looks like we can continue with our plan." The War King was very satisfied with Yunjioga. She was courageous, knowledgeable, and charismatic. She was a talent. "All right, I'll arrange it right away." The white-masked man nodded immediately. Then, he discussed with the War King what to do next. Although their conversation was secretive, it didn't escape Zishang's ears. The War King said to encourage the people to re-establish their respect for the white-skinned noble one. Then, he suggested that the emperor make you his empress. The dog emperor agreed. "As soon as you enter the palace, he'll prepare for the empress conferring ceremony," Zishang said through clenched teeth. Letting Yunjioga enter the palace to look for clues was one thing, but conferring the empress was another. Even if his woman was acting, she couldn't marry someone else and become the empress. It seemed like he had to hurry up and recover. It would be best if he killed the dog emperor as soon as he saw him, lest he set his sights on Xiaojioga. Will the dog emperor appear? What level of cultivation do you think he'll have? Yunjioga was a little worried. The War King was a Foundation Establishment cultivator, and the mysterious black-robed man was a mid-stage Foundation Establishment cultivator. The dog emperor behind the scenes should have a higher cultivation than them. The highest he can go is Golden Core. It won't be any harder than the flying corpses, Zi Shang comforted Yunjioga. Don't mention the flying corpses. Yunjioga's head hurt just thinking about it. However, what made her head hurt even more was that according to her current progress, she probably wouldn't make it back to the Fiend Corp's mystic land. Don't worry. I've calculated it. Time here is slower than outside. We can still make it if we leave in a month. Zi Shang realized that the time here was very strange. It was probably affected by the killing intent. A month is not a problem. Yunjioga finally relaxed and focused on waiting to enter the palace. The War King didn't make her wait too long. The next afternoon, the palace sent someone to pick her up. She immediately moved into the Chushio Palace that represented the position of the Empress. In the luxurious Chushio Palace, Eunuch Li, the head of the inner palace, had a thick layer of makeup on his face. Behind him was a group of light gray palace maids and eunuchs. They stood respectfully in front of Yunjioga. There should be many concubines in the palace. Why haven't they come to see me? Are they looking down on me? Yunjioga sat on the high seat with a calm expression. She didn't show any emotions on her face. Master, you've misunderstood. The concubines who entered the palace previously don't live in the back palace, Eunuch Li hurriedly said. So, I'm the only one in the back palace? Yunjioga raised her brows. The back palace needed a group of concubines to support it. Now that she was the only one placed here, it was too strange. It seemed like she had to find the white-skinned women as soon as possible to understand the secret of this palace. Chapter 412. Master, please calm down. This is His Majesty's will. I don't dare to speculate. Eunuch Li said in fear and trepidation. All right, I'm a little tired. You can all leave. Yunjioga couldn't get anything out of Eunuch Li, so she waved her hand to let them leave. Miss, we haven't started talking about the rules of the palace. Eunuch Li looked at Yunjioga carefully. He had been the head eunuch of the harem for more than 20 years and had seen countless white-skinned women. However, this was the first time he saw a white-skinned noble with such a strong aura as Yunjioga. He always unconsciously bowed and groveled in front of her, as if he was seeing the emperor. Isn't it just being obedient and not going out? Don't worry, I won't leave Chushio Palace before His Majesty summons me. Yunjioga said impatiently. Since you know what to do, I won't say anything more. The rules of the palace are that no one can leave without permission after dark. If you need anything, please bear with it and send someone to inform me the next day. Eunuch Li couldn't help but mention. Eunuch Li, don't worry. I understand these rules. I will never let anyone leave the palace at night. Yunjioga was so resolute that no one dared to question her. In that case, I'll leave first. Eunuch Li saw that Yunjioga was a sensible person, so he didn't stay and annoy her. However, when he left behind 4 senior palace maids, 8 junior palace maids, and 6 eunuchs to serve Yunjioga. After Yunjioga handed these people over to Granny Wang, she went to the inner hall to rest. Granny Wang was very excited when she saw that Yunjioga trusted her so much. She immediately started to arrange everything in Chushio Palace. In the dead of night, the junior palace maid on night duty in Chushio Palace quietly yawned. She was immediately pinched by the older palace maid and warned her with a look to wake up. The junior palace maid shrunk her shoulders and immediately perked up, waiting for the noble sleeping in the inner hall to summon her. In the inner hall, Yunjioga, who was sleeping soundly, slowly opened her eyes. She moved her fingers slightly and a faint green smoke floated out. The two palace maids guarding outside yawned heavily and slowly closed their eyes. Even the eunuchs in the side hall fell into a deep sleep. Yunjioge stood up, took out a black robe from his storage pouch and put it on. Then, he silently left Chusho Palace. It was quiet outside. There were only a few red lanterns lit up in the dark imperial palace. There was no sign of human activity. Head east. I suspect that the white-skinned women are locked inside the tower. Zi Shang had already figured out the situation in the palace before Yunjioge entered the palace. Yunjioge looked up and saw an 8-story pagoda in the east. Its collapsed body was surrounded by gray smoke, and it looked very strange. It was hard to imagine that this was where the former concubines lived. Don't look anymore. Come back as soon as possible. Zi Shang urged. The effect of the sleeping gas was limited. If they didn't return in time, they would be exposed. Yunjioge hurriedly retracted his gaze and followed the shadows in the corner of the wall towards the tall tower. Wait, there are guards. Hide to the right. Zi Shang stopped Yunjioge in time. Yunjioge stuck close to the cold wall and looked at the patrolling guards with spears in their hands. These guards all had black skin, and their eyes were dull. Although they wore thick armor, they walked silently like ghosts. Yunjioge thought to himself. No wonder the rules of the palace forbade them from going out. It would be strange if normal people didn't die from fear after seeing this strange and scary mirror image. These guards are all fiend corpses. Be careful. Zi Shang's voice was serious. He had suspected that this place was related to the fiend corpse secret territory. Now that he saw these guards, he was sure. What level are these fiend corpses? Yunjioge's heart shuddered. He couldn't help but think of the brutal battle in the fiend corpse secret territory. These are just normal fiend corpses. Don't worry. Keep going. Zi Shang's voice was hurried. He also felt that things were getting worse. He had to take Xiaojioge away from this place as soon as possible. Yunjioge avoided the patrolling guards. After a few turns, he finally arrived at the foot of the tall tower. The tall tower was heavily guarded. There were fiend corpses patrolling everywhere. Don't be afraid. These low-level fiend corpses can't see through your invisibility. Just go to the left. Zi Shang immediately found the patrolling guards' blind spots. Yunjioge followed the small path to the tall tower from the left. When she got closer, she smelled the pungent stench of blood coming from the tall tower. She could even see black and red clouds floating inside. It was very similar to the fiend corpse secret territory. Could the clue to leave this place be inside? Yunjioge was excited. She was about to walk into the tall tower's entrance. Suddenly, a slender palm covered her mouth and dragged her outside. Yunjioge instinctively turned around with her elbow. She felt something soft. It was a woman. It's me. A familiar sweet voice rang in Yunjioge's ears. It was Yusha's voice. Yunjioge stopped resisting and left the tall tower with Yusha obediently. The hand on her mouth finally let go. Yunjioge turned around and saw Yusha standing behind her in her maid's attire. Her skin was light gray, her eyes were slightly red, and her lips were light purple. She looked exactly like the gray-skinned man. You. Yunjioge was about to ask but Yusha made a shushing gesture. This isn't the place to talk. Follow me. After that, she led Yunjioge away from the patrolling guards and left the tall tower. They came to a pear garden not far from Chusho Palace. The white spirit pear blossoms shone faintly in the night. Unfortunately, the entire pear garden was empty. No one dared to come out and admire it. Alright, we can talk here. Yusha looked around and finally breathed a sigh of relief. Yusha, why are you here? And why are you a gray-skinned man? Yunjioge asked quickly. I was severely injured when I fell down with you guys. My skin turned light gray after I absorbed the malevolent energy here. I looked everywhere for you but couldn't find any clues. I guessed you'd come to the imperial palace, so I snuck in. When Yusha heard that a white-skinned nobleman was living in Chushio Palace today, she had a premonition. However, she couldn't go in during the day, so she could only sneak out at night. Coincidentally, she bumped into Yunjioga, who went to the tall tower to investigate. What clues did you find in the imperial palace? Why didn't you let me enter the tall tower? Yunjioga asked. The white-skinned women that the great Zhou emperor took in were all kept in that tall tower. A foundation-building assassin snuck in and never came out. It's definitely not as simple as it looks. Yusha's expression was solemn. She had been observing the imperial palace for a long time. She realized that the emperor would send a batch of gray-skinned men to serve him every once in a while, but none of them ever came out alive. Chapter 4:13. No wonder the guards outside are so weak. Yunjioga felt that something was wrong, but she didn't take it to heart because she looked down on these normal guards. Oh yeah, where's Zishang? He's not dead, is he? Yusha asked with a tinge of joy in her voice. He's fine. It's just that it's not convenient for him to show himself now. Yunjioga glared at Yusha. Zishang sneaked his divine consciousness into the tower when she approached it. He probably hadn't regained his senses yet. Oh, all right. Tell him to pay more attention to the murderous aura in this palace. I have a feeling that there's a formation hidden in this palace, but I just can't figure it out. Although Yusha's injuries were healed, her cultivation level was suppressed. Plus, she wasn't as knowledgeable about runes as Zishang, so she couldn't find any clues. I understand. Yunjioga nodded solemnly. Before she figured out the situation in the tower, she wasn't going to take the risk. Also, I heard that His Majesty is going to Chushio Palace to see you tomorrow. Be careful and don't expose yourself. It's best if you hide your cultivation level, Yusha said. I haven't recovered my cultivation level, so it's easy to hide it. Don't you find it weird to see me like this? Yunjioga was a girl now. Most people would find it weird when they saw someone they were familiar with suddenly changing from a man to a woman. Not bad. You're beautiful. Yusha felt it was a pity that she couldn't leave this girl's body for a while. She wondered if Lady Goddess was willing to play with her. People from the mixed evil sect were really brave. Did Yunjioga give in? Seeing that it was getting late, she said to Yusha, it's getting late. I'm going back to Chushio Palace. Alright. I'll look for you if something happens. Although Yusha was reluctant to leave, she still sent Yunjioga back. Yunjioga returned to the inner palace of Chushio Palace quietly. After she laid down, she rubbed her fingers together and a white smoke floated out. The two sleeping maids' breathing quickened. Someone, I want some water. Yunjioga stood up and called out. The two palace maids woke up instantly. When they realized that they had accidentally fallen asleep, the younger palace maid was a little flustered. The elder palace maid was still very calm. She walked into the inner hall unhurriedly and asked Yunjioga, Miss, do you want to drink hot or lukewarm? Warm. I don't want tea. I want plain tea. Yunjioga was not used to the tea here. Yes. A moment later, a cup of warm water was placed in an exquisite white porcelain cup and handed to Yunjioga. Yunjioga took a sip and asked, what time is it now? It's already the hour of the dog. There are still 2 hours before daybreak. If you are hungry, there are snacks and hot porridge in the small kitchen. Would you like to have some? The first palace maid asked considerately. No, I'll sleep a little longer. Wake me up at dawn. Yunjioga handed the porcelain cup back to the grand palace maid and lay back on the bed, silently waiting for Zishang to wake up. The grand palace maid bowed and retreated. A moment later, the mark on Yunjioga's arm began to heat up. Zishang's voice rang in her consciousness, you ran into Yusha. Yes, she told you to pay more attention to the killing intent in this palace. She said that there was a spirit array hidden in this palace, but she couldn't figure it out, Yunjioga answered honestly. There is indeed a killing array hidden in this palace. All the killing intent is concentrated in that tall tower. I suspect that there is a teleportation formation in there to return to the Fiend Corp's arcane realm, Zishang said in a low voice. Suspect? Didn't you send your divine sense into the tall tower? Yunjioga thought that Zishang had already figured out the situation in the tall tower. There's something in the tower that's blocking my divine sense. I'm afraid that breaking through by force will attract attention, so I didn't go in. At that time, half of Zishang's attention was on Yunjioga, so he didn't dare to break through by force. Then I'll find another chance in the future. Oh right, Yusha said that the Emperor will come to see me after daybreak. When that time comes, we'll take a good look at his cultivation level. Yunjioga was no longer in a hurry. Since they had confirmed that the teleportation formation to return was inside the tall tower, they would find another chance to go in. Then I'll help you hide your cultivation level so that the Emperor won't suspect anything. Zishang also felt that under the current situation, it was better for Yunjioga to disguise herself as a local. Fortunately, the meridians in Yunjioga's body were in a mess, so hiding that bit of spiritual power was not a problem. By the time Zishang finished everything, it was already dawn. The Grand Palace maid's gentle voice came from outside the door, "Miss, are you up? Come in." Yunjioga stood up and said. After the Grand Palace maid pushed open the door to the inner palace softly, 7 palace maids followed behind her and entered in a line. Each of them was holding a round plate in their hands. On the plate, there were exquisite head accessories, clothes, and shoes. They were no different from the ordinary royal family outside. "Miss, Eunuch Li just sent a message from His Majesty saying that he wants to have lunch with you. These clothes and accessories are also given by His Majesty. This servant will help you change into them." The Grand Palace maid's pale gray face revealed a sincere smile. Everyone hoped that the master they served would be loved and respected by the Emperor so that they, the palace maids, would be able to eat and drink well. "It's just a lunch, not a conferment. Why do you have to dress so extravagantly? Ordinary will do." Yunjioga glanced at the red gemstone noodles that weighed at least a dozen caddies and rejected them decisively. But this was given by His Majesty. The Grand Palace maid didn't expect Yunjioga to have such a personality and dare to reject His Majesty's gift. "His Majesty didn't specify that I should wear this. Besides, the entire Chushio Palace is a gift from His Majesty. It's the same to wear other clothes." Yunjioga walked straight to the gorgeous wardrobe and picked out the simplest moon-white dress. "Just wear this." "All right." The Grand Palace maid didn't dare to disobey Yunjioga's order. After helping her change into the dress, she combed her hair into the simplest bun and tied it with a hair tie of the same color. Yunjioga ate her breakfast and waited in Chushio Palace for the Emperor's arrival. At noon, she heard Eunuch Li's shrill voice coming from outside, "His Majesty has arrived." Yunjioga walked to the palace gate surrounded by the palace maids and saw a tall, pale, and handsome young man dressed in a dragon robe walking toward the palace gate. Yunjioga didn't want to stare at the Emperor, so she bowed slightly and asked Zishang in her heart, "How is it? Can you tell what the Emperor's cultivation level is?" "No, this Emperor looks like an ordinary person. He doesn't have any cultivation level." Zishang's voice was filled with doubt. Logically speaking, this Emperor couldn't be an ordinary person if he could make a foundation establishment war monarch so afraid. Could it be that the Emperor had concealed his cultivation level, or was the person in front of him not the Emperor himself but a substitute? For some reason, Zishang felt that this Emperor was somewhat familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere before, but he just couldn't remember. Chapter 4:14. Zishang thought the gray-faced Emperor looked familiar, so Yunjioga stole another glance but had no impression of him. The Emperor thought Yunjioga was shy and reached out to help her up. "Please rise, beloved." "Beloved." Yunjilga couldn't help but shiver at the way the emperor addressed her. She quickly got up before the emperor's hand could touch her. The emperor didn't think much of it. A gentle smile appeared on his handsome face. "Sorry to keep you waiting, beloved. Serve the meal." "Yes." Eunuchly responded crisply and called for the palace maids to serve a sumptuous meal. There were all kinds of delicacies. "Sit, beloved," the emperor called out. Yunjilga chose a seat farthest from the emperor and sat down. Eunuch Li and the palace maid waited on them. "Beloved, this iced dew abalone head is not bad. Try it." The emperor smiled and looked at Yunjilga affectionately with his long and narrow eyes, as if he was looking at a treasure. "Thank you, your majesty." Yunjilga pretended to be shy and took a small bite of the dish the emperor had ordered, but she couldn't taste anything. After finally finishing the torturous meal, the emperor suggested, "It's a rare spring day. Let me accompany beloved to the imperial garden for a walk." "Thank you, your majesty." Yunjilga also wanted to see what the palace looked like during the day. The emperor removed the dragon carriage and only left Eunuch Li and the palace maid to serve him. Then, he took Yunjilga to the imperial garden. The palace was bright and beautiful during the day, and the air was filled with the fragrance of flowers. The huge imperial garden was filled with all kinds of beautiful spirit flowers, and colorful butterflies danced among them. The patrolling guards were in high spirits. When they saw the dragon rack from afar, they lowered their heads and bowed to the side. Everything looked so normal. Yunjilga stopped in front of a cluster of red peonies and glanced to the east. She didn't see the eye-catching tower. The palace has a baneful aura array. Those active in the day are the living, and those active at night are the dead. The tower only appears at night. Zishang's voice sounded in Yunjilga's mind. "According to what you're saying, the white-skinned women in the tower are all dead?" Yunjilga was shocked. "It's very likely," Zishang said. Yunjilga could not help but frown, his hand unconsciously stroking the cluster of red peonies. "What's wrong, beloved? Don't you like these peonies?" The emperor's deep voice rang in Yunjilga's ear. Yunjilga turned her head and found that the emperor had walked up to her side at some point. His tall body loomed over her, and the corners of his sexy lips carried a faint teasing smile. His slender palm gently covered Yunjilga's white and tender hand. "He dared to touch you." Zishang was furious. He wanted to jump out of the seal and kick the emperor away. "Calm down, it's just touching your hand." Yunjilga was now a beloved concubine, so it was normal for her to be touched. "Calm down, my ass. Hurry up and pull your hand back." Zishang was even angrier now. All right, I'll do it." Yunjilga silently rolled her eyes, then shyly tried to pull her hand out of the emperor's hand, but he held it even harder. "My beloved concubine, do you know that my heart is with you?" The emperor looked at Yunjilga affectionately. Yunjilga looked at the emperor's brown and slightly red eyes. She could clearly see her fair, delicate, and beautiful face with a bit of corpse poison reflected in them. To be honest, if Yunjilga was an ordinary white-skinned native, she would definitely be bewitched by such a tall, handsome, and expressive emperor. Unfortunately, Yunjilga wasn't a pure white-skinned little white and wouldn't fall for it. The emperor probably noticed that Yunjilga wasn't moved, so he suddenly stretched out his right hand and wrapped it around her waist, imprisoning her in his arms. His brown and red eyes began to slowly move. Yunjilga originally wanted to struggle, but she was suddenly entranced by the light emitted by those eyes and fell into a trance. "Don't be in a daze, calm your mind." Zishang's hurried voice rang out in Yunjilga's mind. Yunjilga also wanted to calm down, but the problem was that the emperor's eyes seemed to have a magical power that pulled at her. She could see the sounds of laughter and beautiful white-skinned women waving at her. "Little sister, come. Yunjilga couldn't help but smile. She felt that this was where she should be, so she couldn't help but float towards it. But soon, the mark on her arm began to heat up, pulling her mind back a little. Just like that, Yunjoga's forehead was covered in sweat. The emperor also frowned. No woman had ever been able to resist his demon eye. Could this white-skinned woman have some kind of innate divine ability? Tisk, interesting. As expected of the mother seed he favored. I have to take her down as soon as possible. The emperor's heart thumped, and the light in his eyes spun even faster. The black and red demonic light pierced straight into Yunjoga's eyes. Yunjoga's body trembled, and a look of terror appeared on her face. The white-skinned women who had been laughing and chatting with her just a moment ago suddenly turned into terrifying skeletons, dragging her down to hell with them. Zishang panicked and was just about to throw caution to the wind and pull Yunjoga out. At that moment, a loud noise rang out. Your Highness, it's not convenient for His Majesty to summon you now. Please come back later. Eunuch Li hurriedly stopped them. His Majesty was currently intimate with the newcomer, Miss Yun. Who would dare to go over now and court death? How dare you? I have something urgent to discuss with my royal brother. Can you afford to pay for it if something important is delayed? War King's furious voice boomed out like thunder. Yunjoga immediately came to her senses. She hurriedly pushed the emperor away and stumbled a few steps back. The emperor's confusion failed. His handsome face kept trembling, as if it was about to split open. However, he quickly regained his calm and dignified demeanor. He turned to Eunuch Li and said, "Let my royal brother come over." Yes. Eunuch Li retreated to the side with his men. War King strode into the imperial garden. He glanced around and saw Yunjoga standing to the side with a pale face. She looked like she had seen a ghost in broad daylight. My beloved concubine is not feeling well. She should go back and rest. Eunuch Li, escort her back, the emperor ordered calmly. Yes. Eunuch Li bowed and walked to Yunjoga's side. He smiled ingratiatingly. Master, this way please. Yunjoga had already snapped out of her daze. She forced a smile and bowed to the emperor before following Eunuch Li back to Chusho Palace. Eunuch Li and the palace maid kept praising Yunjoga's capability along the way. They said that there had never been a noble who could make His Majesty care so much. Yunjoga did not hear a single word. She was still thinking about the skeletons of a beautiful woman she had seen in the emperor's eyes. That demonic power was too terrifying. How could someone without cultivation be able to use it? This emperor has at least a mid-stage golden core cultivation. We're in trouble this time, Zishang said in a low voice. Chapter 4:15. Middle Stage Golden Core. Yunjoga's scalp went numb when she heard that. Zishang had yet to recover from his serious injuries. If he, a mere chi refining stage cultivator, would fall into the hands of a golden core cultivator and be easily crushed. Although this emperor has the cultivation base of a mid-stage golden core cultivator, there's a strange force inside him that's suppressing him. As long as we can find the source of this force, we'll be able to find a way to deal with him, Zishang continued. Looks like we'll have to ask Granny Wang to talk to Warlord. Yunjoga did not have many allies here. Warlord was one of them. No need for that, Granny Wang. Ask Yusha to look for him. Zishang decided to find something for Yusha to do. But I don't know where to look for her. Last night, Yusha said that she would contact her if anything happened. She did not mention where she was. Don't worry. She'll find her own way. With Yusha's wild ambition, how could she let go of a chance to be alone with Yunjoga? She would definitely find a chance to sneak in. Zishang's words were quickly verified. When Yunjoga returned to Chusho Palace, she noticed that the palace maid guarding the door had changed. Yusha was dressed in a red palace dress. She stood at the door obediently to welcome them back. Yunjoga glanced at her indifferently. She did not say anything and walked into the inner hall quietly. I'm tired. You can all leave. Yunjoga waved her hand. After sending eunuch Li and the palace maid away, she leaned on the soft couch. A moment later, Yusha walked in respectfully with a cup of hot tea in her hands. "Miss, please have some tea." Yunjilga could not help but look left and right. "Don't worry. No one followed me in. Granny Wang is fighting with them outside." Yusha smiled as she placed the teacup on Yunjilga's rosewood tea table. She then knelt beside Yunjilga's feet and massaged her legs like a palace maid. Zishang said that Grey Emperor has the cultivation base of a mid-stage golden core cultivator. I was almost charmed by him in the Imperial Garden. Yunjilga took a sip of tea and sorted out her thoughts. Then, she recounted what happened earlier. "He touched your hand and hugged your waist." Yusha narrowed her eyes and tightened her grip on Yunjilga's legs. "That's not the point." Yunjilga hurriedly slapped Yusha's heavy hand away and pointed at her forehead as he said solemnly, "The most important thing is to quickly figure out this emperor's background and the way to deal with him. Later, you'll go to the Imperial Garden and keep watch. We'll talk after we pull Battle King's strings. If they could not kill the emperor, it would be wishful thinking to enter the tower." "I understand. I'll go now." Yusha put away his jealousy and stood up to leave. Yunjilga waited for Yusha to leave before he said to Zishang, "Why don't I release my spiritual power? Otherwise, if that dog of an emperor were to come after me again, I wouldn't even have the ability to resist. If the dog emperor knew that you have spiritual power, he wouldn't just use his demon eye to deal with you." Zishang could sense that the dog emperor had other plans for Yunjilga, and this plan was most likely related to the tower. This was also the reason why he had not fallen out with the dog emperor just now. "This won't do, that won't do. Am I supposed to just wait for death?" Yunjilga hated the feeling of being restricted. "You can recover your spiritual power slowly. When you have time, you can contact the cute little baby. If you can activate the demonic tripod, then we'll have more confidence," Zishang said in a low voice. "All right." Yunjilga laid back on the bed helplessly and started calling the cute little baby. She tried to contact the demonic tripod with her divine consciousness. However, she did not know where the demonic tripod had gone. No matter how she tried, it was useless. Just as she was about to give up, a gray dot suddenly flew towards her. It gradually turned into a gray little person. The little person's face was exactly the same as Yunjilga's. It was the grass soul seed that had devoured the flying corpse. "Master, I've finally found you." The moment the grass soul seed saw Yunjilga, it began to weep. "You didn't die." Yunjilga was shocked. She thought that the grass soul seed had failed to devour and exploded with the flying corpse. "Master, I had already devoured it." However, there was a strange divine consciousness restriction in the flying corpse. Once it was subdued, it would explode, the grass soul seed quickly explained, afraid that its master would think it was useless. "There's a spiritual consciousness restriction in the flying corpse." "Who did it?" This was completely out of Yunjilga's expectations. "I don't know. After the flying corpse exploded, I was locked here. There's a monster that wants to eat me. Master, hurry and save me." Speaking of the monster, the grass soul seed's little body kept trembling. It was clearly very afraid. "Where are you locked? What monster wants to eat you?" Yunjilga quickly asked. She had worked so hard to cultivate the grass soul seed. How could she let the monster eat it? "I'm in a dark place. The monster is black. I don't know what it is." "Oh no, the monster is here. I have to go. Master, you have to save me." With that, the grass soul seed disappeared without a trace. "Wait." Yunjilga wanted to grab the grass soul seed and ask more. When she opened her eyes, she saw a gorgeous curtain. "Miss, what's wrong?" The palace maid lifted the curtain, her face full of worry. "It's nothing. It's just a little nightmarish." Yunjilga touched her forehead, which was covered in cold sweat. "Should we get the imperial physician to take a look?" The palace maid poured some hot water on a copper plate and wrung a clean handkerchief to wipe Yunjilga's face. There's no need. By the way, where's Granny Wang? Yunjilga asked again. Although she had already sent Yusha to look for Warlord, it was safer to have one more person to contact. His Majesty said that Granny Wang is old and not suitable to serve you, so he sent her back to her hometown. The palace maid lowered her eyes, took the handkerchief from Yunjilga's hand, and placed it in the basin. Was he trying to isolate her? Yunjilga was not surprised. She replied, His Majesty is really considerate. By the way, what time is it now? Where is His Majesty? It's the hour of the evening now. It'll be dark in 2 hours. His Majesty is still in the imperial study discussing important matters with His Highness Warlord. He wants you to have an early meal tonight and have a good rest, the palace maid said softly. I understand. Yunjilga nodded. It seemed that Yusha would have to wait until tomorrow to send news back. Miss, do you still want to sleep? The palace maid asked softly. I'm not sleeping anymore. Help me up. Yunjilga came to the outer hall and ate a few snacks. She pretended to be chatting and asked the palace maid, I still don't know your name. Eunuch Li had introduced her yesterday, but Yunjilga did not pay much attention to it. My name is Bao, the palace maid replied respectfully. How long have you been in the palace? Yunjilga took another sip of tea. I've been in the palace for 8 years. I've always been working in Chushio Palace. No noble has ever lived in Chushio Palace before. Miss, you're the first. Bao knew that Yunjilga wanted to find out more information, so she took the initiative to tell her everything she knew. Do you know where those white-skinned women went? Yunjilga put down the teacup. She had been in the palace for 8 years, so she should have some information. Chapter 4:16. I don't know. Bao shook her head. Although she had worked in the palace for 8 years, her range of activities was limited to Chushio Palace. She was not clear about other places. I see. Yunjilga's disappointment was evident in his words. He looked as if she didn't know anything after working for 8 years. Bao began to feel uneasy. Nurse Wang had just been sent away, and it was time for her to perform. If she disappointed her master now, it would be difficult to gain trust in the future. Bao thought about it and whispered, I have heard a rumor about the white-skinned noblewoman, but I don't know if it is true or not. Anyway, tell me. Yunjilga's eyes lit up, and he immediately cheered up. I heard that after the white-skinned noblewoman slept with Her Majesty, she would be sent to another place to prepare for pregnancy. So, there is no one in the harem now, Bao said in a low voice. Prepare for pregnancy. Did they win the bid in one go? Yunjilga asked in surprise. Even a sharpshooter couldn't be so accurate. Miss. Bao's face turned red. How could a virgin say such a shameful topic? I'm serious. Did those white-skinned noblewomen only sleep with Her Majesty once? This is a very important question. Yunjilga's face was serious. In the cultivation world, the higher one's cultivation, the harder it was to get pregnant. This was an unchanging truth. There was no reason for this gray-faced golden elixir emperor to be an exception. I only heard about it. Bao looked embarrassed. She had never had a white-skinned noblewoman live in Chushio Palace. How could she know about these boudoir secrets? Did any white-skinned noblewoman give birth to a dragon son? Yunjilga asked again. No. Bao had been in the palace for 8 years. Not to mention a dragon son, she hadn't even seen a dragon girl. She was sent away when she was pregnant, but she couldn't give birth to a single one. This is too strange. Yunjilga thought of the evil spirit tower that would only appear at night and the withered beauty in the eyes of the gray-faced emperor. He couldn't help but feel heavy. Miss, this is all nonsense. Please don't take it seriously. Otherwise, this servant will definitely die. Bauer panicked a little. If Eunuch Li knew that she was gossiping here, it would be troublesome. What are you afraid of? You can tell me, and I will listen. No one else will know. Okay, it is getting late. Go and see if dinner is ready. I will go rest in the inner hall. Yun Jilga told Bao a few things, and then he got up and walked into the inner hall. Bao saw that Yun Jilga's expression was calm and didn't look like he was frightened, so she left with peace of mind. There's no smoke without fire. This palace maid should be telling the truth, Zi Shang said in Yun Jilga's mind. A golden core cultivator won the bid on the first try. How is that possible? Those white-skinned women are not getting pregnant normally. There must be something strange about this. However, this mystery could only be solved by seeing the white-skinned women. Let's put that aside for now. Have you contacted the demonic tripod? Zi Shang was more concerned about this. I didn't contact the demonic tripod. Instead, I encountered the grass soul seed. Yun Jilga told him about the grass soul seed. The bloody orb self-destructed and a black monster. Zi Shang had a vague guess, but he couldn't connect it. Do you think that the grass soul seed is locked in the tower? Yun Jilga thought about it, and the mysterious tower was the most likely place to be. Probably. Next time you see it, ask about the situation in the tower. They had to enter the tower eventually. The more detailed the information, the better. Okay, I will contact it again tonight. Yun Jilga was about to discuss with Zi Shang when Bao's voice sounded outside. Miss, His Majesty has sent a bunch of gifts. Do you want to come out and see? No, just keep them. Yun Jilga wasn't in the mood to deal with these people. After Bao went out to reward the eunuchs, she walked back into the inner hall. With a complicated expression, she said to Yun Jilga, Miss, Eunuch Li said that His Majesty lit your lantern tonight. He wants you to prepare and sleep with him tonight. Sleep with him? Yun Jilga's eyes almost fell out of their sockets. This gray-faced emperor was serious, and he wanted her to sleep with him. Miss, this is something that will happen sooner or later. Don't think too much about it. Bao was regretting what she had said. What if she was afraid and didn't want to sleep with him? The emperor might not do anything to her in his rage, but servants like her wouldn't be able to escape death. I understand. You can go. You don't have to prepare dinner. I have no appetite, Yun Jilga said weakly. Bao wanted to say something, but when she saw that Yun Jilga didn't want to talk about it, she left. Go find Yu Sha. We will go to the high tower tonight. Zi Shang immediately made a decision. Even if it cost her cultivation, she would take Yun Jilga away from this place. She didn't want the gray-faced emperor to think about her. There's no hurry. Didn't you say that the gray-faced emperor is being suppressed by a mysterious force? Let's wait for news from Warlord first. Also, judging from the emperor's attitude, if I don't obey, he won't do anything rash. If he did, then she would take his life while he was distracted. No, that's too dangerous. Zi Shang seemed to have thought of something and suddenly said, Call Yu Sha over. She should be guarding Warlord at the entrance of the Imperial study right now. How do I call her? Yun Jilga was helpless. She couldn't go out in front of Bao and the palace maids, could she? Use your divine sense to call her. She'll be able to sense it. Zi Shang knew that Yu Sha had secretly done something to Yun Jilga's divine sense, but he had turned a blind eye to it. Alright, I'll try. Yun Jilga closed her eyes and was about to summon Yu Sha using her divine sense when she heard her voice by her ear. Jilga, are you calling me? When did you come in? Yun Jilga was shocked. When she opened her eyes, she saw Yu Sha standing in front of her with a golden red muslin robe. I heard that the gray-faced emperor wanted you to serve him in bed, so I rushed over. Yu Sha placed the muslin robe next to Yun Jilga and asked through gritted teeth, what did Zi Shang say? That gray-faced emperor had taken advantage of Lady Goddess in the Imperial Garden. Now, He wanted Lady Goddess to serve him in bed. He deserved to die. He said he wanted to go to the tower tonight, but I thought it was too dangerous so I didn't agree. Help me talk to him. Yunjioga didn't think that the gray-faced emperor could do anything to her. Tell him to grab the mark. I'll talk to him, Zishang ordered hastily. Oh. Yunjioga rolled up her sleeves and relayed Zishang's words. Yusha reached out and grabbed the mark on Yunjioga's body. Then, she closed her eyes and listened carefully. She didn't know what Yusha said to Zishang, but the expression on her face changed. She couldn't help but nod and say, I understand. That's what we'll do. Chapter 4:17. What are you guys talking about? Yunjioga couldn't help but ask. Unfortunately, Zishang and Yusha ignored her. Alright, let's do that. Yusha opened her eyes and asked Yunjioga, do you still have your disguise? Can you help me whiten my skin? Yes. Whitening her skin was too easy for Yunjioga. She had a beauty pill with her. After consuming it, not only would it whiten her entire body, but it also had a soft glow effect. She made it when she was bored and was going to sell it at Plethora Treasure Tower. After Yusha swallowed the beauty pill, she untied her hair and let it fall behind her head. Then, she took Yunjioga's medicine and applied it on her face. In the blink of an eye, she turned into a fair beauty. Why did you disguise yourself as me? Yunjioga looked at Yusha, who looked 90% like her. Let's switch. How about I consummate your marriage with Grey Emperor? Yusha winked. Not only could she protect Yunjioga's innocence this way, but she could also observe Grey Emperor from a distance. It was perfect. Yunjioga was dumbstruck. Her mouth was so wide that an egg could be stuffed in it. She knew Yusha was nice to her, but she didn't think she would be nice enough to replace her. You don't have to worry about her. Demons have no morals. Zishang couldn't help but complain. Yusha is a demon. Yunjioga was even more shocked. Demons and demonic cultivators were two different things. Damn it, what if she accidentally revealed Yusha's identity? Zishang thought about it for 2 seconds and decided to expose Yusha's true colors. Do you remember the devil's head in the ruins? Yes, I do. Yunjioga nodded. The head was handsome with curly hair and 2 goat horns. That's Wan Sha. He's possessing Yusha now, Zishang said as he carefully used his divine consciousness to peek at Yunjioga's thoughts. So, Yusha is actually a man. Yunjioga was even more shocked. Then, wasn't he disguising himself as Grey Emperor's wife? Since they were gay friends, how could he be her lover in her past life? She was a woman in her past life. Zishang sensed the chaos in Yunjioga's heart. Harboring evil intentions, he explained, Wan Sha has no integrity at all. Not only does he kill both men and women, but he also has lovers everywhere. He has no bottom line. Everything Zishang said was the truth. He had absolutely no intention of slandering Wan Sha. It was just that he forgot to mention that all those ridiculous things happened before Wan Sha hooked up with the goddess. Alright. Yunjioga's mind was in a mess. Although she was touched that Wan Sha had risked his life to save her, when she thought of his shameless actions, she felt horrified. Wan Sha still did not know that he had been betrayed by Zishang. After disguising himself, he sealed his cultivation and said to Yunjioga, quickly disguise yourself as me and change into the palace maid's clothes. Oh, okay. Yunjioga absent-mindedly painted herself to look like a gray-skinned man, and then changed into a red palace maid dress. Take this invisibility pill and stay on the side to help me hold the fort later. If anything goes wrong, help me out. Yusha rubbed his jeweled earring and took out a gray pill. This was the invisibility pill that her family had prepared for her. It was expensive, and she only had 3 of them. Yunjioga took it and sniffed it. After confirming that it was a high-grade invisibility pill, she swallowed it. After Yusha waited for Yunjilga to successfully conceal herself, she laid down on the chaise lounge and called for Bao to come in and serve her. Bao thought that Yunjilga was having dinner, so she brought the little palace maid in to take a look. She found that Yusha had already changed into a gauze dress and was lying on the chaise lounge, looking completely at her beck and call. "Miss, you've thought it through." Bao was surprised and delighted. Go and stand guard at the door later. When the emperor arrives, let him into the inner palace." Yusha said lazily. "Yes." Bao nodded quickly. Although this was a little against the rules, there were no rules in the imperial harem. As long as the emperor did not blame her, it was fine. However, before Bao left, she still led the little palace maids to tidy up the inner palace. The curtains and bedsheets were all changed into a festive bright red. A red carpet was laid on the floor, and bright red peonies were placed on the bedside cabinet. The atmosphere of a newlywed immediately became lively. After Bao was done with the decorations, she left with the little palace maids. "Are you really going to serve me in bed?" Yunjilga could not help but ask. "Jilga, if you can't bear to leave me, I won't go." Yusha reached out to pull Yunjilga. Her beautiful eyes were sparkling with a suggestive gleam. "You don't have to sacrifice yourself like this for me." Yunjilga was conflicted. Although demons had no morals, Yusha was sacrificing himself for her. She could not help but feel uneasy. "It's not a sacrifice. I've cultivated the art of plucking before. If I can take this opportunity to absorb more than half of the Grey Emperor's cultivation base, it'll be of great benefit to me." Yusha was considering this from a strategic point of view. Rolling in the sheets with a man was not a problem for him at all. This body was not his real body anyway. It was fine to just play with it. All right. Since Yusha had already said so, it would be unreasonable of Yunjilga to try and stop him. "Are you hungry? Do you want to eat something?" Yusha's long, black hair fell to the side of her body, revealing her fair and delicate collarbone. Her slender fingers hooked around Yunjilga's palm. She exuded a powerful charm. "I'm not hungry. I've eaten an abstinence pill." Yunjilga silently retracted her hand. She thought to herself that when Zishang was able to show himself, she would definitely roll in the sheets with him to set up her correct values. "Don't worry. I'll be able to show myself very soon." Zishang chuckled softly. His elegant voice was like a feather caressing the tip of Yunjilga's heart. Yunjilga felt her heart itch. Compared to the seductive Yusha, she preferred the sultry Zishang. It looked like her values were still very correct. Wan Sha, who was unaware of the situation, was still using Yusha's body to seduce Yunjilga. There were a few beautiful girls among the lady goddess's lovers back then. There was no reason for him to not be tempted by the current him. Just as the two of them were engaged in a tug-of-war, Bao's clear voice rang from outside. "Long live the emperor!" Yunjilga quickly hid herself and retreated to the side to avoid attracting the Grey Emperor's attention. The next moment, the Grey Emperor strode in from outside. There was a gentle smile on his handsome face, and his entire being exuded a proud aura. Yusha got up from the imperial concubine's couch and bowed to the ground. "Your concubine greets your majesty." "My beloved concubine, you may dispense with the formalities." The Grey Emperor held Yusha's slender arm and pulled her into his arms. He smiled and said, "My beloved concubine, you're really lovely today. I'm very happy." "Your Majesty, you flatter me." Yusha lowered her head slightly. The blush on her face spread to her neck. It was an indescribably moving sight. The Grey Emperor's gaze deepened. He smiled ambiguously and said, "The night is too short. Let's go to bed." After that, he carried Yusha in his arms and walked toward the large bed in the inner hall, stepping on the red flower petals that covered the floor. Chapter 418. Yunjilga stood stiffly in the corner as he watched Grey Emperor's dragon robe and Yusha's red muslin robe on the floor. The two of them were touching each other and rolling around on the bed. Goosebumps rose all over his body and his scalp went numb. Close your eyes if you don't want to look. Don't force yourself. As Zishang spoke, he slowly revealed himself and held Yunjilga's hand. You can show yourself now. Yunjilga looked at Zishang's handsome face and couldn't help but feel excited. Although Zishang was always by his side, there was still a big difference from touching the real person. It can only last for a short while. This short while was a burst of demonic power that he had been accumulating for a long time. It was to prevent Yunjilga from losing control of himself when he saw such an exciting scene. He had to stay by the side and help Yunjilga extinguish the fire when necessary. You don't have to do this. I'm fine. Yunjilga felt the warmth of Zishang's palm and felt sweet inside. He couldn't care less about Yusha and Grey Emperor anymore. Zishang was about to tease Yunjilga a little more when he saw what was happening with Yusha. He frowned and looked at the bed in the inner hall. What's wrong? Yunjilga followed Zishang's gaze and looked at the bed in the inner hall. Grey Emperor had gotten up and was standing by the bed. His muscular upper body was bare, but he was still wearing white underwear. Yusha's clothes were messy as she laid on the bed without any reaction. She seemed to have fainted. Yunjilga was about to go check on her but Zishang stopped him. Don't rush. Let's see how it goes. Yunjilga could only suppress his anxiety and stand beside Zishang, watching Grey Emperor's movements closely. Grey Emperor slowly put on his dragon robe and took out a small grey bell. He shook it and called out, "Come in." A tall man with dark grey skin walked in through the door. He was actually a battle king. At this moment, the battle king's eyes were dull and lifeless, as if he was a marionette. Grey Emperor took out a black pill the size of a thumb and shook the bell for War King to swallow. Then, he told him to get on the bed. Warlord stripped off his clothes with a straight face and pounced on Yusha who was lying on the bed in his nakedness. Yunjilga's eyes widened in shock. Could it be that the white-skinned woman hadn't slept with the grey-faced emperor, but had been fooling around with the War King like today? Also, what was that black meatball that Battle King ate just now? It smelled fishy, and he wondered if messing around with Yusha would hurt her. When Yunjilga saw that War King had already begun to tear Yusha's thin trousers apart, Yunjilga began to panic. He was afraid that Yusha would be at a disadvantage. Zishang's frown deepened. In the end, with a flick of his finger, a purple mist quietly slipped out. There was a sudden loud noise outside the door, and then there were the screams of the palace maids and eunuchs. Broken Jade Pavilion has collapsed, the palace of heavenly purity is on fire. On the bed, Warlord, who was pressing down on Yusha's hands and getting ready to raise his spear, immediately stopped what he was doing. A pained and conflicted expression appeared on his face. A look of rage flashed across the handsome face of the grey-faced emperor. Black mist leaked out of his cracked skin, making him look extremely terrifying. He glared fiercely at Warlord and shook the bell in his hand again. Warlord's expression became even more pained, but he stopped moving. The grey-faced emperor knew that he had lost control of Warlord, and forcing him to continue would only make things worse. He could only shake the bell helplessly to let Warlord leave Chushio Palace. Without even putting on his clothes, Warlord jumped out of the window with his well-built naked body. Yusha, who was lying on the bed, also happened to wake up at this time. She used the bright red blanket to cover her naked chest, and said to the grey-faced emperor who was standing by the bed in confusion, "Your Majesty, what happened?" "It's nothing. There's a fire outside, so I'll go out and take a look. You can continue to rest." The grey-faced emperor regained his gentle look. After comforting Yusha for a while, he walked out of the inner hall. As soon as the grey-faced emperor left, Yusha's beautiful face darkened. She dragged the bed sheet down and asked Yunjilga, who came up to her, what happened. That grey-faced emperor was probably impotent. Halfway through, Warlord came and even gave him a Herculean strength pill. Yunjilga told her what happened in a concise manner. In the end, Yusha asked, "Didn't you feel anything just now?" "When I was rolling on the bed with him, I was accidentally hit by his ice skill. I struggled to break free, and when I opened my eyes, I saw him standing by the bed." Yusha's beautiful brows furrowed tightly. Although she already knew that the gray-faced emperor's ice skill was powerful, it was still difficult for her to avoid it when her cultivation base was sealed. "I wonder if Warlord knows that he's been used as a substitute by the emperor in bed?" Yunjilga recalled Warlord's pained and conflicted look and felt that he should know something. "That's easy. I'll just call him here tomorrow and ask him about it." Yusha's original plan was to feed the tiger with her own body and use it to absorb the gray-faced emperor's cultivation base. Now that the gray-faced emperor was not sleeping with her, she did not want to mess around with Warlord. "We must get this done as soon as possible. I've already alerted the enemy when I tried to save you. The longer we delay, the more disadvantageous it will be for us," Zishang said with a serious expression. He had placed some gunpowder around Chushio Palace and the tower, planning to use it at a critical moment. He had exposed himself in order to save Yusha just now. The gray-faced emperor must have sensed it, so all his arrangements were ruined. If that's the case, then let's go look for Warlord now. The meatball he ate earlier has an aphrodisiac effect. He might be waiting for us to save him now. Yunjilga's eyes were sharp. He had already spotted Warlord in a state of arousal when he ran out naked. It was said that men were like wild beasts when they were aroused. It was hard to guarantee what they would do. "You stay here to fool others. Jilga, come with me." Zishang made a prompt decision and dragged Yunjilga away. "Hey!" Yusha was not even dressed yet, so she could not catch up even if she wanted to. Yunjilga followed Zishang out the window and smelled a faint musk lingering in the air. This was left behind by Warlord. "He's over there." Zishang scanned the area and accurately determined Warlord's whereabouts. Yunjilga looked into the distance and realized that Zishang was pointing at Pear Blossom Garden. Pear Blossom Garden still shone with a beautiful light, but it was no longer peaceful. Under a blooming pear blossom tree, the sounds of a woman's choking moans and a man's intense panting could be heard intermittently. When Yunjilga and Zishang arrived, they saw the War King galloping around a palace maid's body with bloodshot eyes. The pear blossom tree shook violently as he slammed into it, and the pure white petals fell on his sweaty back. Yunjilga was about to rush forward to save him, but Zishang pulled him back again. "What's done is done. Why don't we wait until he's done? Otherwise, it'll be troublesome if Warlord gets stuck there in shock." Yunjilga immediately imagined the scene of a stick stuck in his head. His face darkened, but he did not dare to rush forward. Fortunately, Warlord had already reached his limit. His back was as taut as a bow. After a low growl, he collapsed on top of the palace maid. Chapter 419. Zishang waved his sleeve, and purple mist wrapped around Warlord. He rolled to the side, revealing the palace maid he was pressing down on. "Bao, Yunjilga was shocked. The one Warlord was humiliating was Chushio Palace's palace maid, Bao, Perhaps it was because of the chaotic situation that Warlord grabbed a random palace maid and messed with her in Pear Garden. Bao, was unlucky. Right now, Bao, was a little pitiful. Her beautiful face was covered in tears, and her curvy body was covered in bruises. Her lower body was even worse. The gray-skinned man's body was stronger than a normal human's, but Warlord still messed with him. It was enough to show how much of a beast Warlord was after taking the medicine. "Take her back first. Don't let Grey Emperor and Warlord know about this." Zishang ordered Yunjilga as he waved his hand and shot out purple mist to wipe away all traces of Pear Garden. Yunjilga took out a cleansing talisman and put it on Bao. Then, she wrapped her in her clothes and followed Zishang back to Chushio Palace. "How is it? Did you find Warlord? What happened to Bao? Yusha had been hanging around Chusho Palace lately, so she knew Bao-er very well. Bao-er was caught by the mad warlord. Yunjioga put Bao-er on the bed. Warlord raped her. Yusha thought of something and lifted Bao-er's clothes to examine her body. What are you doing? Yunjioga looked at Yusha angrily. She knew that Yusha's soul was a man. This was too much. Didn't you say Grey Emperor gave Warlord an aphrodisiac pill? There should be something different if you let it out. Yusha checked Bao-er and found nothing strange. She looked up and asked Yunjioga, when you saw her, what color was the liquid on her? Yunjioga saw how serious Yusha was and couldn't help but scratch her face. She hesitantly said, I think it was gray. She was too shocked and didn't look closely. It was gray, Zishang replied calmly. Back then, the War King's condition was abnormal. Something was controlling his body. If he didn't let it out, his life would be in danger. That was why he stopped Yunjioga from going up. Yunjioga's eyes widened. Yusha thought about it for a moment, then placed his hand on Bao-er's abdomen and examined it thoroughly. In the end, he frowned and said, so it's this thing. What is it? When Yunjioga saw Yusha and Zishang talking as if they were talking in riddles, he was so anxious that he wanted to punch them. What the Greyface Emperor wants the most is a devilish embryo formed from demonic chi and baleful chi, Zishang said expressionlessly. What does he want the demonic embryo for? Yunjioga blinked. The devilish embryo was a mixture of devilish chi and baleful chi. It was one of the evilest things in the world. It was absolutely not something that a golden core stage cultivator could cultivate. If he really managed to cultivate the demonic fetus, the entire world would be destroyed. Even the golden core realm Greyface Emperor would be no exception. Who knows? Maybe he wants to use him as a puppet, or maybe he wants to use him as a vessel. Yusha shrugged. This kind of thing was all too common in the Devil Clan. The devilish body was the best vessel for cultivating demonic techniques. Many demonic cultivators would come up with this method to cultivate faster. However, the success rate was less than 1 in a million. Can you get rid of the demonic chi in Bao-er's body? No matter what the Greyface Emperor wanted to do, Yunjioga had to stop this evil plan. This devilish chi is very corrosive. It has already entered deep into Bao-er's body. If I take it out now, she will die immediately. Yusha shook his head. This was actually a very good opportunity. If he used it well, Bao-er might become a weapon against the Greyface Emperor. Are we just going to let the devilish embryo form in Bao-er's body? Yunjioga looked disapproving. This was no joke. If things went wrong, they might all die. If the devilish embryo could form so easily, it wouldn't be called the worst of all evils. Don't worry. When the time is right, I will personally get rid of the devilish chi in Bao-er's body. I guarantee it won't affect Bao-er's life. However, the most important thing now is to seal Bao-er's memory. We don't want her to give herself away and attract the Emperor's attention. Yusha's cultivation was still sealed, so Zishang was the only one who could do this. Zishang extended his index finger and tapped Bao-er's forehead. A purple light shone on Bao-er's forehead. Her pained expression calmed down, and her tightly clenched fists slowly relaxed. Yusha put Bao-er in the ear chamber that the palace maids used to keep watch at night. She then looked up at Zishang and asked, How is Warlord? Don't tell me you didn't leave a demon eye to watch him. Do you think I'm you? Zishang looked at Yusha with disdain and said, Warlord is still lying in Pear Garden. I think he will only wake up in the morning. Wake up in the morning. Yunjioga remembered that Warlord was still naked. If the palace maids and eunuchs came out at dawn, they would be seen naked. That's the effect I want. Zishang narrowed his eyes. If he did not embarrass Warlord once, how would he know that he was in a difficult and dangerous situation? Good idea. Yunjioga thought of poor Bao-er. He was happy to see Warlord being tricked. The effects of the invisibility pill are about to wear off. Change back to your original identity. I think the emperor won't do anything reckless for a while after what Warlord did. Yusha quickly smeared her skin with dust and changed back into the palace maid's clothes. She then went to the ear chamber to check on Bao Er's condition. Bao Er was leaning against the chair in the ear chamber in a daze. When she heard the commotion outside, she opened her eyes in a daze and looked around her surroundings. She remembered that the emperor had asked Miss Yun to serve him in bed last night. She was waiting outside the door for the summons when she suddenly heard the palace collapse and the sound of water on fire. Since she was not allowed to go out at night, she did not dare to go out to check. She only walked around the courtyard of Chushio Palace to make sure that the door was locked. She couldn't remember what happened after that. Big sister Bao Er, why are you sleeping here? Yusha walked in with an act. When she saw Bao Er's dazed look, she quickly helped her up. I was worried that you would be frightened and not be able to sleep well at night, so I stayed here to watch over you. Although Bao Er still did not know what happened, she instinctively found an excuse for her actions. Big sister Bao Er is really attentive to the young lady. But it's almost dawn. You should go wash up quickly. Yusha said considerately. All right. Bao Er was already half awake. She was back to her usual nimble self. After washing up and changing her clothes at the fastest speed, she returned to the inner hall to prepare breakfast. Then, she invited Yunjioga out. While Yunjioga was eating, he said to Bao Er, go out and find out what happened last night. Why is it so noisy? Did something happen in Pear Garden? He emphasized the words, Pear Garden. Yunjioga was having breakfast. This servant will send someone to find out right now. Even if Yunjioga did not mention it, Bao Er would still go find out. This was something that she had to do as the head palace maid of Chushio Palace. Chapter 420. Yunjioga picked up the teacup and moistened his throat. Then he said to Bao Er, I don't trust others. You should go ask yourself. Yes. Bao nodded gently and went out to inquire about the news. Because the commotion last night was too big, Bao Er easily heard about it. When she came back, her beautiful face still had a shocked expression. What's wrong? Yunjioga put down the teacup and asked. Miss, I've already inquired. Last night, Broken Jade Pavilion suddenly collapsed. The emperor personally took people to extinguish the fire. Bao Er replied softly. What about Pear Garden? Yunjioga raised his eyebrows and asked. Bao Er blushed and said hesitantly, Pear Garden is fine, but what? Yunjioga frowned and his face darkened. Don't hesitate, say what you have to say. Yes. Bao Er saw that Yunjioga didn't look happy, so she quickly told him what she had heard. I heard that when the eunuchs in the watering room went to the pear garden to sweep the floor, they found the warlord hanging unconscious on the pear tree without any clothes on. Because warlord's position was too conspicuous, except for the eunuchs and maids who were responsible for taking care of pear garden, all the people nearby could see it clearly. They could even count the moles on warlord's body. Warlord was hanging naked on the tree. Yunjioga's mouth twitched. He inexplicably remembered the scene of those cultivators who offended Zishang in Yin Corp sect being hung. Zishang was really dirty when he was naughty. He didn't know where he learned this bad habit of taking off people's clothes when he was unhappy. Warlord took off his clothes himself, okay. Zishang was very dissatisfied. How could he be described as a pervert? He was kind enough to wrap a circle around Warlord's waist with leaves. Actually, he wasn't hanging. I don't know who knitted a grass leaf skirt for Warlord and put a big lotus leaf in the middle. Bao said with a blushing face. A big lotus leaf in the middle. Yunjioga didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It was better to be naked. Miss, don't forget to tell others. It'll be bad if they hear it. Bao reminded him. Although the emperor was in charge of the harem, the war king was still the emperor's younger brother. It would be dangerous for him to lose his temper. I know. Pass down the order as well. Tell the people of Chushio Palace to shut up and not talk about this matter. Yun Jioge ordered. Even though Bao's memories had been sealed by Zishang, it was hard to guarantee that she would not suddenly recall the time when she was humiliated. I understand. Bao agreed with Yun Jioge's order, so she went to do it. After Bao went out, Yu Sha sneaked in. Where did you go? He disappeared early in the morning. It's such a fun thing. Of course I have to go and see it myself. Yu Sha winked mischievously at Yun Jioge and said with a smile, Bao didn't tell me everything just now. Actually, there's more to it. What else? Yun Jioge asked with interest. After the warlord ran away, he went to the imperial study and made a scene with the emperor. Now, he's grounded by the emperor, Yu Sha said in a low voice. Grounded? Can we still find him? Yun Jioge wanted to have a good talk with the warlord. I've already sent him a message. He said that he'll find a chance to talk to you tonight. Yu Sha didn't go out just to watch the show. Then I'll wait for the good news, Yun Jioge said with a smile. In order to have a smooth private meeting with the warlord tonight, Yun Jioge even went to Eunuch Li to ask about Grey Emperor's whereabouts. Something happened at Broken Jade Pavilion last night. His Majesty will be very busy these few days. However, His Majesty is still concerned about you, so he asked you to let him know if you need anything. Don't make yourself feel wronged, Eunuch Li said respectfully. He didn't know that Yun Jioge didn't consummate the night before. He thought to himself that the white-skinned noblewoman was different this time. She didn't immediately send her out to have her miscarriage checked. I understand. Thank you, Eunuch Li. Knowing that Grey Emperor didn't have time to care about her, she was completely relieved. After nightfall, Yun Jioge sent all the palace maids and eunuchs away. Only Yu Sha stayed with her to wait for the warlord's arrival. It wasn't until midnight that Zishang reminded her, he's here. Yu Sha retreated to the back and hid. Now wasn't the time for her to show herself. Yun Jioge smoothed out the wrinkles on her clothes, got up, and opened the door. She saw the black-robed emissary wearing a white mask. Why are you here? Yun Jioge frowned. She thought Warlord would come in person. She didn't expect him to send an emissary. How insincere. Good night, Miss Yun. His Highness Warlord is grounded by His Majesty and can't move. He could only send me as an emissary to negotiate with you. I wonder if you have anything to say to him. The masked man's voice was very gentle. It was easy to believe his words. I'm only talking to Warlord himself. I don't suspect anyone else. You may leave. Although Yun Jioge knew that this masked man was Warlord's good friend, she didn't want to talk nonsense with him. Miss, are you worried about my identity? Although I'm a black-robed emissary, I'm with His Highness Warlord. If you don't believe me, you can take a look at this. The masked man took out a grey token. On it was the symbol of the Revolutionary Army. It represented his position as the deputy leader of the Revolutionary Army. I don't care who you're with. I just want to see Warlord, Yun Jioge said firmly. The masked man was silent for a moment. He sighed and said, I can tell that Miss Yun isn't an ordinary person. Your insistence on seeing Warlord must have something to do with what happened last night. Last night, you mentioned the Broken Jade Pavilion's collapse? Yun Jioge played dumb. No. The masked man gave Yun Jioge a deep look. He then said, I'm talking about the failed consummation last night. What do you mean? It seemed like this masked man knew a lot of things. Let's not beat around the bush. Since you're standing here in one piece, you should already know that the white-skinned woman was slept with by Warlord in place of His Majesty, the masked man continued. That's right. I know it was Warlord's doing, but I don't know why he did it. He doesn't look like a man blinded by greed. Yun Jioge continued the masked man's topic. I can tell you the reason, but you must help me, the masked man said. Help you with what? Yunjioge asked. I want you to help me deal with His Majesty's Leng Hui. The masked man stared at Yunjioge and said, You don't have to refuse. I know you have the ability. From the first time I saw you, I knew you didn't belong to this world. You're from the outside world, just like him. Yunjioge's pupils shrank. The masked man's words contained too much information. Chapter 421. So that gray-faced emperor came from the outside. No wonder he could cultivate to the golden core stage. Zishang had been curious about the lack of spirit qi in this world. Everywhere was filled with killing intent. It was not easy to cultivate to the golden core stage. I was wondering why he was so weird. He didn't look like an emperor at all. Also, the rules in this palace are so messy. Yunjioge compared the palace in Thunder Country. The palace here was like a knockoff. Everything felt strange. The masked man did not know that Yunjioge was daydreaming. Seeing her deep gaze, he thought that she did not believe him. He took off the white mask and said, You should believe me now, right? Under the mask was a handsome man's face. He looked exactly like Warlord. The only difference was that his face was very white. It was so white that it was almost transparent. It was very strange. What's your relationship with Warlord? Yunjioge narrowed her eyes. It was obvious that the masked man and Warlord had a special relationship. My name is Leng Bai. I'm Warlord Leng Mo's twin brother. Leng Hui is our big brother. Leng Bai narrowed his eyes and began to recount his memories. The country they lived in was called Grey Country. When children were born, they were weak white-skinned people. When their bloodline awakened, they would become gray-skinned people. The darker their skin, the stronger they were. They did not need to cultivate to have the power to fight tigers and wolves. At that time, Grey Country was not divided into ranks. Everyone was of the same status. Leng Hui was the eldest son of Grey Country's emperor. When he was born, he was the future heir. He was calm and generous. He had extraordinary talent. He loved his younger brother and cared for his people. He was a very good person. Until one day, he was seriously injured while hunting. His life was in danger. The state preceptor summoned his soul to save him. After Leng Hui came back to life, his personality changed. Not only did he become obsessed with cultivation, but he was also crazy about fair-skinned women. He requested the whole country to send fair-skinned women into his harem. Apart from that, he also plundered the wealth of the people to build a strange tower. Because he did not have enough people to build the tower, he divided the people into ranks according to their skin color. Those with dark skin were classified as untouchables. They were dragged to build the tower and did the most tiring and dirty work. At that time, Leng Bai and Leng Mo had realized that Big Brother might have been possessed by the devil. They had wanted to kill the devil, but they had been poisoned and controlled by Leng Gray instead. After Leng Bai and Leng Mo were poisoned, Leng Mo's body became stronger and stronger, but his mind became more and more muddled, and his bestial side often erupted. Leng Bai's skin was getting whiter and whiter, and his cultivation was getting higher and higher, but he had lost the ability to procreate. When Yunjioge heard that Leng Bai had been poisoned, he could not help but interrupt him. Stretch out your hand, I'll check your pulse. Leng Bai was stunned, but he still extended his hand obediently. A glimmer of hope appeared on his face. Yunjioge placed his hand on Leng Bai's slender and fragile wrist and discovered that there was actually no pulse to speak of. It was a completely dead body. Leng Bai's body is cursed. This is refined by a golden core cultivator's soul energy mixed with poison. Only the person who poisoned him can remove it. You have no way of removing it now. Zishang had long seen that Leng Bai was poisoned. However, he had no way of curing this poison, so he did not tell Yunjioge. It was actually a curse. Yunjioge had heard of this strange poison before. It was very similar to a curse, but it was even more troublesome. To cure it, one had to be a realm higher than the person who poisoned him. This was impossible for Yunjioge. Zishang was more likely to do so. However, it was obvious that Zishang would not waste his demonic power to do such a thing. I'm sorry, I have no way of curing it either. Yunjioge retracted his hand helplessly. It's fine. The poison that the devil used is extremely strange. There's no cure at all. I've already resigned myself to my fate. Leng Bai lowered his eyes to hide his disappointment. He retracted his hand and continued to talk about Leng Hui. After that devil-possessed Leng Hui, he had also lost the ability to procreate. That was why he had Leng Mo, who had the same bloodline as Leng Hui, take his place in bed. After those white-skinned women slept with Leng Mo, they were brought to the tower by Leng Hui and disappeared. Leng Bai had once sent assassins to check on the tower, but without exception, none of them walked out alive. I originally wanted to go there personally, but as long as I get close to the tower, Leng Hui will immediately sense it and increase the dosage of the poison. When my skin becomes completely transparent, I will die. It doesn't matter if I die, but I can't watch the devil in Leng Hui's body destroy this country. Since you were able to come to our Grey Nation safely from the outside, you must have a way to deal with that devil. Leng Bai stared at Yunjioge as if he was looking at a savior. It seems that this Leng Hui has been possessed. The power suppressing him should be the sole power that Leng Hui left behind, Zishang said thoughtfully. Then as long as we help to strengthen Leng Hui's soul power, won't we be able to send the person who has possessed him flying? Yunjioge immediately asked. A soul that had lost its body was very weak. It would be easy to deal with it. We don't have anything that can strengthen Leng Hui's soul power now. Moreover, the possessed cultivator is already in the Golden Core realm. It won't be that easy to get rid of him, Zishang said calmly. This nameless Golden Core had possessed Leng Hui for so long. It was already deeply rooted in his body. It would be very difficult to get rid of it. Leng Bai might have a way. After all, they are blood brothers. Yunjioge said optimistically. Then you should ask him. Zishang said without much hope. Then I'll ask. Yunjioge came back to his senses and said to the nervous Leng Bai, I do have a way to deal with that possessed devil. Actually, I've already discovered a mysterious power that can suppress the devil. It should be the sole power that your big brother left behind. That means my big brother is still alive? Leng Bai's eyes widened in disbelief. That's right. If you can awaken your big brother, we have the confidence to deal with that devil. Yunjioge nodded. Then how do we awaken him? Leng Bai asked anxiously. I don't know. This devil was summoned by you guys. Think of a way yourself. Yunjioge threw the question back at him. Leng Bai frowned and said, although the one who summoned him was the Grand Preceptor, the Grand Preceptor doesn't know the inside story. Is the Grand Preceptor still alive? Yunjioge asked. To be able to summon a Golden Core cultivator from the outside world meant that he was quite powerful. Ever since the Grand Preceptor helped Big Brother summon his soul, he suffered a backlash from heaven. He's been in seclusion at home. I haven't seen him for a long time. Leng Bai sighed. Bring me to him. Compared to going head-on with the Golden Core cultivator, Yunjioge was more inclined to take a roundabout way to save the country. Hence, she would definitely not let go of any clues. I can bring you to him, but Leng Hui is watching you very closely. It'll be very difficult for you to leave the palace. Leng Bai looked troubled. It had taken him a lot of effort to sneak in tonight. Chapter 422. You don't have to worry about that. Go and make the arrangements now. I'll wait for you at the palace gate. Yunjioge had Yu Sha as his substitute. Leaving was a simple task. Alright, I'll go and make the arrangements now. Leng Bai trusted Yunjioge and left immediately. After Leng Bai left, Yunjioge called Yu Sha out. Pretend to be me and stay here. Leng Bai and I will go see the Grand Master. Humph, you and Zi Shang go on dates every day and leave me here alone. That's too much. Yu Sha was very unhappy. She risked her life to follow Lady Goddess to this secret realm but was used like a tool. She didn't even have a chance to be alone with her. How was she supposed to win back Lady Goddess's heart? Listen to me. This is serious business. Yun Jioga comforted without any sincerity. No, not unless you kiss me. Yu Sha's pretty face was glowing as she looked at Yun Jioga coquettishly. Her cherry lips were very alluring. It was undeniable that Yu Sha was beautiful like this. Even if she was a male demon deep in her soul, it didn't diminish her charm. If Yun Jioga was a man, he would definitely fall for her. Unfortunately, Yun Jioga was a straight woman. No matter how ridiculous she was in her past life and how many lovers she had, she was only interested in Zi Shang now. Hence, facing Yu Sha's coquettish behavior, Yun Jioga just wanted to run away. Ignore her. Give her a slap and she'll know how to write the word dutiful. Zi Shang's voice was gloomy. It looked like he wanted to do it himself. Yu Sha, listen to me. I won't mistreat you in the future. Yun Jioga wasn't as cruel as Zi Shang. He couldn't destroy a flower. After comforting Yu Sha, he turned and ran. Jioga. Yu Sha stared at Yun Jioga's disappearing silhouette with a bewildered look on her pretty face. She then pinched her ample bosom and mumbled to herself, could it be that the saint isn't interested in this body? Speaking of which, the tomboys that the saint has been courting in the past were all flat-chested. Yu Sha thought she had found the reason why Lady Goddess despised her. She was extremely annoyed. If she had known this would happen, she would have attached herself to a man. It was easier for her to be a man. However, Lady Goddess's heart had always been unpredictable. As long as she didn't ask her to leave, she would still have a chance. Let's wait and see. As Yu Sha's imagination ran wild, he did not forget to disguise his face. He had followed the goddess for so many years and understood her temperament very well. Usually, she could do whatever she wanted to please her, but as long as she gave him a task, if he couldn't complete it, he could only get lost. The goddess would never keep a useless person. Even if it was a lover, she would choose the strongest one. But then again, if they weren't strong enough, they would have been killed by Zi Shang a long time ago. At that time, Zi Shang was the strongest man by the goddess' side. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't make the goddess pregnant and give birth to the child of life, the goddess wouldn't have gone around looking for lovers to give birth to. However, in this life, the goddess seemed to be completely bewitched by that fellow, Zi Shang. She didn't know if she still had the chance to rise to the top. It seemed that he still had to seize the opportunity to please the goddess. Otherwise, when those troublesome fellows rushed over, the competition would be even greater. Yu Sha lay on the bed, thinking about the goddess. He tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. At this moment, a gust of wind with a faint fishy smell drifted in from outside. Yu Sha's body tensed up, but he soon relaxed and pretended to fall asleep. A moment later, a black silhouette entered the room without a sound. He stood by the bed and stared at Yu Sha. Then, he suddenly bent down and moved closer to Yu Sha's neck. His nostrils flared like a wild beast looking for prey. Yu Sha didn't need to open her eyes to know that the person who came was Leng Hui. She tried her best to relax her breathing so that Leng Hui wouldn't notice anything out of the ordinary. Leng Hui sniffed Yu Sha's body and knocked her out with a palm strike. He carried her on his shoulder and took her away. Before Yu Sha fainted, she only had time to send a message to Zi Shang and Yun Jioga with her thoughts before she fainted. At this moment, Yun Jioga and Leng Bai had just boarded the carriage and were about to head to the Grand Preceptor's residence, which was located 30 miles away from the capital. The Grand Preceptor used to live in the palace's observatory. Ever since he was struck by divine retribution, he returned to his old house and refused to see any guests. Leng Bai introduced the Grand Preceptor's life to Yun Jioga on the carriage. The Grey Kingdom didn't have a Grand Preceptor in the past. That was until a natural disaster struck 100 years ago. A gust of murderous aura descended from the sky and spread like a plague. Those infected by the murderous aura would turn into walking corpses and go around killing people. Back then, the people were panicking and the Grey Kingdom was in danger of being destroyed. Later on, the Grand Preceptor saved the people of the world with the murderous pill he invented. The Emperor of the Grey Kingdom at the time was Leng Bai's grandfather. He cultivated the observatory in the palace and invited the Grand Preceptor back. The Grand Preceptor had a profound cultivation base and boundless transcendence energy. He was also very concerned about the people. Every time there was a natural disaster, he would inform the imperial court in advance and help the people avoid many disasters. When my big brother's life was in danger, my father knelt down and begged the Grand Preceptor to save his life. The Grand Preceptor said that my big brother's soul had already left and could only be summoned by someone with the bloodline of a relative. My father volunteered himself and the Grand Preceptor used another 49 sacrifices to successfully summon my big brother's soul back. I didn't expect a devil to follow my big brother back. Leng Bai's heart ached when he said this. He thought his big brother had passed away. He didn't expect his big brother's soul to still be around. It was just suppressed by the devil. This meant that the Grand Preceptor's soul summoning art was a success. Wasn't the murderous corpse arcane realm opened 100 years ago? Could this Grand Preceptor be an outsider as well? Yun Jioga asked Zishang secretly. It's very possible, but we'll only know the specifics when we see him in person, Zishang said cautiously. At that moment, Leng Bai spoke. We're here. Yun Jioga followed him down the carriage. In front of them was a gloomy manor. The surroundings were filled with tall locust trees, covering the manor tightly. The morning sun was very bright, but it couldn't penetrate at all. Yun Jioga looked at the locust trees and felt inexplicably uncomfortable. It was as if she was in a graveyard. This is the soul sealing formation. Someone wants to seal the Grand Preceptor's soul here, Zishang said solemnly. It must be the person who possessed Leng Hui. He's so worried about the Grand Preceptor's soul escaping. This means that the Grand Preceptor must know something. Yun Jioga felt that she had made the right decision to come here. Leng Bai saw Yun Jioga staring at the locust trees and explained, after the Grand Preceptor suffered the backlash, he was afraid of sunlight. He found someone to hasten the growth of these trees. Didn't Leng Hui find someone to hasten the growth? Yun Jioga raised her eyebrows. This answer didn't match what she had imagined. It's not Leng Hui. It's the Grand Preceptor, Leng Bai said with certainty. It's useless to ask him. Let's go in first, Zishang urged. He had already received news that Yu Sha had been taken away by Leng Hui. There was no time to waste here. Chapter 423. Alright, I'll go in now. Yun Jioga could feel Zishang's anxiety, so he climbed over the wall and entered the manor. Hey, wait. Leng Bai wanted to enter through the main door, but he could only follow. It was even darker inside the manor. He could vaguely see the servants busying about in silence. Their vitality was so weak that they were like the living dead. Where's the Grand Preceptor? Yun Jioga asked Leng Bai in a low voice. In the courtyard on the west side. I'll take you there. Leng Bai walked through the corridor and headed towards the most remote corner on the west side. The further he went, the darker it got. There was no light at all in broad daylight. If the people at the outermost area were the living dead, then the people at the inner area were the walking dead. Leng Bai was shocked when he saw the walking dead. He even wanted to kill them. Don't be meddlesome. Finding the Grand Preceptor is more important. Yun Jioga quickly stopped him. No, if we let these walking dead out, they'll endanger the entire Grey Nation. Ever since the baleful aura disaster broke out 100 years ago, the Grey Nation's royal family issued an order to kill all the walking dead in the world. We'll talk about it later. These walking dead won't be able to escape. Seeing Leng Bai's insistence, Yunjioge could only take out several corpse control talismans from his storage bag and toss them over. After the walking dead were hit by the talismans, they obediently stood at the side and did not move. As long as I light the talismans, those walking dead will burn themselves to death. Is that okay? Yunjioge asked. All right. Although Leng Bai was still unwilling, he did not insist and continued to lead Yunjioge to the west courtyard. The west courtyard was so dark that one could not even see their fingers in front of them. It was filled with a thick aura of death. A foul smell came from the dark courtyard. It was the smell of rotting corpses. Why is it so smelly? Leng Bai could not help but seal his nose aperture. The last time he visited the Grand Preceptor, the west courtyard was dark but clean. Looks like you're about to die. Yunjioge's expression was solemn. Impossible. Leng Bai anxiously pushed open the courtyard's old gate and walked into the smelly room. He immediately saw the Grand Preceptor lying on the moldy bed. The Grand Preceptor before him could no longer be called a human. He was a pile of bones and rotting flesh. There were even maggots wriggling in the rotting flesh. Grand Preceptor. Leng Bai's face turned even paler. He used all his strength to cover his mouth to prevent himself from vomiting. Heh heh. The Imperial Tutor's half-rotten mouth let out a series of gasping sounds. He wanted to say something but he couldn't. How could this be? Leng Bai did not expect the backlash from the State Preceptor's heavenly wrath to be so severe. This is not the wrath of heaven. Someone trapped his soul in his rotten body to torture him, Yunjioge said calmly. Could it be that demon? Why would he do that? Leng Bai's eyes widened. The Grand Preceptor had gone into seclusion after summoning the spirits and had not had any contact with Leng Hui. How could he have offended that devil? You'll have to ask the Imperial Preceptor. Yunjioge was certain that the Imperial Preceptor knew something. The Imperial Preceptor is already in such a state. What else can he ask? Leng Bai looked sorrowfully at the half-dead Grand Tutor. He didn't expect the Grey Kingdom's hero to end up in such a miserable state. It was all his negligence. When he got back, he would definitely punish those servants who served him. This is indeed a problem. Yunjioge frowned. The Imperial Preceptor's tongue was already half-rotten and he couldn't speak at all. His hands were only bones left. He probably couldn't write either. How was he supposed to communicate with him? Why go through so much trouble? Just search his soul directly, Zishang said coldly. Search his soul. Yunjioge was in a difficult position. The Imperial Preceptor was not an enemy. She couldn't do such a cruel thing. He was tortured by that golden core cultivator. As long as we help him take revenge, he will definitely be willing to let us search his soul. If you don't believe me, you can ask him, Zishang said confidently. All right. Yunjioge decided to give it a try. He asked the Imperial Preceptor, Imperial Preceptor, I'm here to investigate the demon that possessed Emperor Leng Hui. Are you willing to let us search his soul? No. Before the Imperial Preceptor could reply, Leng Bai had already rejected him. The soul-searching art was so cruel. How could they use it on the Imperial Preceptor? Hee hee. The Imperial Preceptor took a deep breath and nodded with all his might. See, I told you he would agree. Zishang looked as if he had already expected it. Imperial Preceptor. Leng Bai was at a loss. Since the Imperial Preceptor agrees, let's search. Yunjioge saw that Leng Bai was still hesitating. She said unhappily, if you dilly-dally now, not only will you increase the Imperial Preceptor's pain, you will also delay us from saving your big brother. Leng Bai thought of her big brother who was being suppressed by the demon. In the end, she still nodded and agreed. All right. Hand the body to me. I will search it. Zishang was worried about Yunjioge's technique. All right. Yunjioge closed her eyes in trust and handed the body to Zishang. Leng Bai, who was waiting anxiously at the side, saw that Yunjioga didn't move for a long time. Just as she was about to ask about the situation, Yunjioga suddenly opened her eyes. Her entire aura changed. There was a faint purple glow in the depths of her black eyes. She became cold and arrogant, inviolable. Leng Bai couldn't help but take a step back. She felt respect for the current Yunjioga from the bottom of her heart. Zi Shang didn't care about Leng Bai's rich inner thoughts. She walked straight to the Imperial Preceptor. She opened her fair and tender palm and aimed it at the Imperial Preceptor. A purple mist was spat out from her palm and wrapped around the Imperial Preceptor's head. Yunjioga's soul was hiding in his consciousness. He could clearly see the masses of consciousness being transmitted from the Imperial Preceptor. The truth was immediately revealed to the world. It turned out that the Imperial Preceptor was just an ordinary gray-skinned warrior. 100 years ago, he accidentally fell into a cliff crack near a volcano and obtained a supreme cultivation technique. The cultivation technique was written by a golden core cultivator called Cho Shan. It introduced a marrow cleansing pill. As long as one consumed it, they would achieve great success in the cultivation technique. At that time, the Imperial Preceptor was bewitched. He followed the method recorded in the book to collect the ingredients. In the end, he really refined a black marrow cleansing pill. After he consumed the marrow cleansing pill, a soul named Cho Shan suddenly appeared from the supreme cultivation technique and entered his body. It turned out that everything was Cho Shan's scheme. Cho Shan was originally a late-stage golden core cultivator from the outside world. When he accidentally fell into this space, his body was destroyed. His life depended on himself. He used a secret technique to hide his soul. Then, he released a supreme cultivation technique and waited for the host to appear. After Cho Shan took over the Imperial Preceptor's body, he killed 99 gray-skinned people. Then, he used their souls to set up an evil formation to summon the pestilence baleful Qi to lead to the Grey Kingdom. When the Grey Kingdom's emperor was helpless, he appeared with the antidote and successfully became the Grey Kingdom's Imperial Preceptor. In the next 100 years, Cho Shan began to plan to build a tower that could connect with the baleful Qi of heaven and earth. Other than that, he also secretly captured many people for research. There were men, women, young, old, and all kinds of skin color. He even secretly brought back a descendant of the Grey Kingdom's royal family who was not favored. Later, he discovered that the fair-skinned women in this arcane realm had the potential to develop the demonic attraction physique. That was the best vessel to cultivate a baleful demon fetus. Chapter 424. After Cho Shan discovered the white-skinned woman's secret, he became even crazier. He spent a great deal of effort researching the demonic attraction powder and secretly placed it in the water source to change the physique of the entire Grey Nation. Although this was a huge project, he had finally succeeded after persevering for 100 years. 80% of the white-skinned women had the demon-attracting physique. It was just that this artificially cultivated physique was very fragile, and there was no way to give birth to a demonic embryo in one go. Thus, Cho Shan began another plan. He plotted to heavily injure Leng Hui, then had the Imperial Preceptor pretend to summon the soul into Leng Hui's body. Then, he used the power of the Emperor to build a tall tower, and frantically searched for the white-skinned woman and placed her in the tower to be nurtured. Because the Grand Preceptor's stubborn resistance over the past 100 years had caused Cho Shan a lot of trouble, after Cho Shan entered Leng Hui's body, he set up this evil spirit array to trap the Grand Preceptor in the rotting body and torture him. If Cho Shan knew that his pettiness had caused him to be exposed, would he regret it? I don't know if he will regret it or not. I only know that Cho Shan must be related to Cho Sr., Zi Shang said with certainty. It's just that they have the same surname. They might not be related. Yunjioga felt that there was some involvement. Cho Sun once said that we can find the treasure map if we get the bloody bead. Later, the bloody bead exploded and we came here to meet Cho Shan. Do you think it's a coincidence? Anyway, he didn't think so. You mean the last piece of the treasure map is in Choshan? Yunjioga was excited. That's right. That's the only explanation. If Chosun didn't know Choshan, how could he know the secret of the bloody killing bead and the treasure map? If the treasure map is really with Choshan, then we didn't come here for nothing. Yunjioga suddenly became excited. Originally, he thought that he was just unlucky to fall into this godforsaken place. He never thought that he would be able to find the last piece of the treasure map. Miss Yun, did you find any news from the soul search? The Grand Preceptor is dying. Leng Bai looked at the Grand Preceptor who was gradually losing his breath and immediately became anxious. The Imperial Preceptor has already gone to where he should go. With a flick of Yunjioga's finger, a wisp of white flame landed on the Imperial Tutor's body, instantly burning him to ashes. This pitiful State Preceptor had been dragged by Cho Shan to live for 100 years. He had long wanted to be free. Did the State Preceptor say anything about how to deal with that devil? Leng Bai continued to ask. No, but the Grand Preceptor has already told us the name of the devil. Yunjioga told Leng Bai about the information regarding Cho Shan that he had obtained from the Grand Preceptor's soul. Cho Shan has been hiding for 100 years. Leng Bai felt a chill run down his spine. Could they really defeat that devil after setting up so many traps for 100 years? Don't be discouraged. I already know the method to stimulate your big brother's soul power, Yunjioga said confidently. The reason why the State Preceptor was able to resist Cho Shan for 100 years as a mortal was because of his deep love for the Grey Kingdom. Leng Hui had always been a competent emperor, and his love for the Grey Kingdom was only deeper than the State Preceptor's. As long as he set it up properly, he would definitely be able to awaken Leng Hui's soul. Then let's hurry back, lest a long night brings trouble. The more Leng Bai understood Cho Shan's background, the more he feared him. Now he just wanted to get him out of his big brother's body as soon as possible. There's no rush. Destroy this manor first to prevent the deathly aura from escaping, said Yunjioga. I'll get someone to deal with it later. Even if Yunjioga had not mentioned it, Leng Bai would have destroyed all the walking corpses in this manor. Get someone to chop down the surrounding trees first. Wait for sunlight to shine into every corner of the manor before you kill the walking corpses. This step cannot be wrong, or else the consequences will be very serious, Yunjioga instructed sternly. Although this soul-trapping formation was not complicated, destroying it recklessly would cause the deathly aura to explode. When that happened, all living things within a 10-mile radius would be killed. I'll keep an eye on it personally, Leng Bai nodded solemnly, then asked, is there anything I need to do in the palace? Compared to this manor, Leng Bai was more concerned about the palace and his big brother. Get War King Leng Mo here. The two of you will be able to deal a heavy blow to Cho Shan if you work together. These two brothers were definitely the key to defeating Cho Shan. Alright, I'll go look for Leng Mo now, Leng Bai said impatiently. Since he was about to fall out with Cho Shan, there was no point in grounding him. I'll wait for you at Chushou Palace. Yunjioga boarded the horse carriage after parting ways with Leng Bai. He then said to Zishang, when we get back, let Yu Sha make the arrangements. She's the best at this sort of thing. Yu Sha has been captured by Cho Shan, Zishang said coldly. When did this happen? Yunjioga's face was filled with shock. Yu Sha had actually been captured. Just now. But don't worry, she'll be fine. With Wan Sha's character, Zishang was not worried that he would be at a disadvantage. Then let's hurry back to the palace and make the arrangements. Yunjioga returned to Chushou Palace anxiously. Bao, and the others still did not know that Yu Sha had been captured. They saw that Yunjioga was still the same as before. Bao, follow me, Yunjioga sent everyone away, leaving Bao, alone. Bao, did not suspect anything and obediently followed Yunjioga into the inner hall. Lie on the bed, Yunjioga pointed at the big bed in the inner hall and then closed the door. I dare not. Bao knelt down in fear and trepidation. She thought that she had done something wrong to offend Yunjioga. I told you to lie down, so lie down. Yunjioga waved his hand impatiently. Light purple spiritual energy turned into a rope and tied Bao-er to the bed. Spare me, miss. Bao-er panicked and shouted. Then, she realized that her throat was tight and she could not speak anymore. Don't worry, I won't hurt you. Close your eyes and everything will be fine when you wake up. Yunjioga reached out his palm and wiped Bao-er's face. Bao-er slowly closed her eyes and fell into a deep sleep. Yunjioga's gaze fell on Bao-er's flat stomach. The devilish chi that Warlord had planted there was sealed by Yusha. What she needed to do was to release the devilish chi and create the illusion of a devil fetus to trick Cho Shan. Although Bao would suffer a little, she would let Zishang get rid of the devilish chi after the deed was done. She would not let Bao-er's life be in danger. Let's begin. Zishang revealed himself and stood beside Yunjioga. Alright, Yunjioga took out various medicinal ingredients from his storage pouch and prepared to refine the fake devil pill. Zishang set up layers of illusory formations with the big bed as the center. When everything was ready, Leng Bai and Leng Imo finally snuck into Chushu Palace. Miss Yun, I'm sorry. What happened that day was not my intention. Leng Imo looked at Yunjioga guiltily. Although he did not really violate Yunjioga, he had taken advantage of her. He was guilty. The person you feel the most sorry for is Bao-er, not me. Yusha had only taken advantage of her by taking her place, but Bao had been hurt badly by Leng Imo. Chapter 425. Leng Imo was slightly surprised as he looked at Bao-er, who was sleeping soundly on the big bed. He vaguely remembered that when the drug took effect, he had casually grabbed a palace maid and taken her to the pear garden. Could it be her? Over the years, Leng Imo had hurt many women under Cho Shan's control. However, those women were all taken into the high tower, and it was unknown whether they were dead or alive. The only one who escaped was Bao-er, the palace maid. Because of this, he would treat Bao-er well. Don't worry, Miss Yun. I will definitely give Bao-er an explanation, Leng Imo said solemnly. Let's talk about this later. The most important thing right now is to deal with Cho Shan. This was Leng Imo and Bao-er's business. They should deal with it themselves, but not now. Alright. Leng Imo collected his thoughts and asked Yunjioga, what should we do then? The two of you, take these 2 purple lightning exorcism palace cards and stand here. When I make a gesture, use your most shrill voice to shout for help. Yunjioga had made several arrangements. The call of kinship was also a very important part of it. As for the Purple Thunder Exorcism Talisman, it was a gift that she had specially prepared for Cho Shan. She hoped that it would come in handy when the time came. Alright. Leng Bai and Leng Imo stood at the designated position and stared at Yunjioga nervously. Yunjioga walked to the side of the bed and placed the fake demon pill into Bao-er's mouth. Bao-er's throat moved as she swallowed. Then, her belly slowly bulged. A ball of black mist rolled around Bao-er's belly, emitting a terrifying aura. From the outside, the entire roof of Chushu Palace was filled with gray smoke. That was a symptom that would only appear when a devil fetus was taking shape. Inside the tall tower, Cho Shan was searching for his escaped prey, the Jade Fiend. When he noticed the commotion, he immediately turned his head to look in the direction of Chushu Palace. Last time, Leng Imo had eaten his devil attraction pill, but failed to consummate the marriage with the white-skinned woman from Chushu Palace. Later, the drug took effect and she ran away. He didn't care which palace maid was unlucky. Could it be that the palace maid had successfully nurtured the demonic embryo? When Cho Shan thought of this, he became extremely excited. He had been in this godforsaken place for 100 years and had always wanted to cultivate a demonic fetus so that he could return to the outside world. Unfortunately, he had never succeeded. The Fiend Corp's secret realm was about to close. If they could not leave, they would have to wait another 100 years. He didn't have that kind of patience, which was why he was frantically trying to hasten the birth of the demonic embryo. Who would have thought that there would be a naturally bred devilish fetus? That was the perfect vessel. Cho Shan couldn't care less about catching the escaping prey. He immediately turned and flew towards Chushio Palace. However, he didn't rush in rashly. Instead, he kept pacing around outside, trying to see if there were any traps inside. Yun Jilga was using his divine sense to observe the situation outside. He noticed that Cho Shan was lingering outside Chushio Palace. He decisively took out the thunder fire needle and pierced it into Bao Er's belly. The black mist in Bao Er's stomach began to cry like a baby. When Cho Shan, who was hesitating outside, heard this voice, he no longer cared about anything else and immediately rushed towards Chushio Palace. As soon as he pounced into the inner hall, he noticed beams of light lighting up. A gigantic water screen appeared in front of him, displaying the scene of the Grey Nation's citizens being forced to the brink of destruction by the black-robed emissary. The people of the Grey Nation were destitute and homeless, weeping bitterly. 9 out of 10 houses were empty, and the land was barren. It was incomparably miserable. Cho Shan was cold by nature and regarded ordinary people as ants. Such a scene could not move him, but only made him feel bored. However, his chest mysteriously throbbed with pain. The cold gray soul force he suppressed began to fluctuate intensely. Damn it! Cho Shan gritted his teeth and used all his strength to suppress it. If not for the fact that killing Leng Hui would lead to the death of this body, he wouldn't have let Leng Hui live. Yun Jilga noticed Cho Shan's strange behavior, and immediately raised his hand and gestured to Leng Bai and Leng Mo. The two brothers cried out for help at the same time. Big brother, save me! Leng Hui's soul force, which had been suppressed by Cho Shan, surged again. For the first time, he suppressed Cho Shan and cried out, Little White, Little Mo, where are you? Big brother! Leng Bai and Leng Mo cried out in surprise. Just as they were about to run out, Leng Hui was suppressed by Cho Shan again. Behave yourself. Don't think that I don't dare to kill you. At most, I'll just change my body. Cho Shan threatened Leng Hui fiercely. You too, continue shouting. Tell us more about your past, such as how your father and the state preceptor sacrificed themselves for justice. Yun Jilga hurriedly urged Leng Bai and Leng Mo. Leng Bai immediately said, Big brother, father was killed by that demon, Cho Shan, in order to save you. The state preceptor was also killed by Cho Shan. Actually, Cho Shan was the one who caused the baneful aura disaster 100 years ago. He set up a formation in the state preceptor's manor and wanted to destroy our Grey Nation again. Big brother, our Grey Nation is in danger. Only you can save our people. Leng Bai and Leng Mo echoed each other. Leng Hui's soul force surged again, and he roared angrily, Damn Cho Shan, get out of my body. Now! Zi Shang, hurry up and attack, Yun Jilga said excitedly. Zi Shang charged forward like a ghost and slammed his palm on Leng Hui's Baihui acupoint. Leng Hui was fighting with Cho Shan over his body. Just as he was about to be killed by the enraged Cho Shan, an extremely dense soul force surged into his soul. Leng Hui immediately felt as if he was being helped by God. He kicked Cho Shan out of his body. Yun Jilga saw a thick black fog erupt from Leng Hui's body. Inside the fog was a hideous man's face. It was Cho Shan's soul. She raised her evil sword and slashed at Cho Shan's soul. However, she was repelled by the power of Cho Shan's soul. However, this was normal. The soul of a golden core cultivator was not something she could deal with right now. Although Cho Shan hated Yun Jilga to the core, the most important thing now was to find a new body. Hence, he turned around and pounced at Leng Mo. However, he did not expect that when he got close to Leng Mo, a purple lightning would suddenly appear on Leng Mo's body. Cho Shan could not dodge in time and was hit. He immediately screamed and rushed out of Chushio Palace, flying towards the tall tower. Yun Jilga wanted to chase after him, but Zi Shang stopped him. Don't chase a desperate enemy. Zi Shang shook his head. Cho Shan had been in the palace for so many years, so he must have set up countless traps. If he chased after him rashly, he would only fall into his trap. It was better to remove all the traps first, then go to the tall tower to kill him. All right. Although Yunjioge was unwilling, he still listened to Zishang and stopped in his tracks. Then, he turned to look at Leng Hui, who was standing in the center of the formation. After Leng Hui regained his senses, he hugged his two younger brothers and cried tears of excitement. Big brother is back. You're safe now. Big brother, big brother. Leng Bai and Leng Mo cried tears of joy. They cried like two children. Don't celebrate too early. We still have a lot of things to do. Although Yunjioge did not want to dampen their spirits, the situation was dire. They had to rush into the tall tower before Cho Shan recovered. Chapter 426. Miss Yun is right. The most important thing now is to get rid of Cho Shan. He set up many traps in the tower. If we want to break in, we have to make the most thorough preparations. Although Leng Hui's soul power had been suppressed by Cho Shan all these years, he still knew a lot about what Cho Shan was doing. Alright, I'll go gather people to destroy the tower now, Leng Mo said with high morale. Tell that idiot not to be impulsive. To destroy the tower, we have to destroy the fiend gathering formation in the palace first, Zishang said in Yunjioge's mind. How do we destroy it? Yunjioge asked. I've already calculated where the eye of the formation is. We just have to destroy it. Zishang sent the method of destroying the formation into Yunjioge's mind. After receiving it, Yunjioge realized that the method was very complicated. She couldn't do it alone. She needed the help of the three Leng brothers. At that moment, Leng Mo was still excitedly introducing his revolutionary army to his big brother Leng Hui. 1,000 of the elite soldiers were personally trained by him. Not only did they have cultivation, but they also learned battle formations. They could definitely destroy the tower and kill Cho Shan. Cho Shan's tower isn't as simple as you think. Your soldiers will only die if they attack the tower. Leng Hui shook his head. No one knew better than him how terrifying the tower was. It wasn't something ordinary people could destroy. Big brother is right. You forgot how Elder Song died, Leng Bai said in pain. Elder Song was their common master. He was the oldest and had the highest cultivation in the Grey Kingdom. When his lifespan was about to end, he volunteered to investigate the situation in the tower. However, even though he was already in the late stage of foundation establishment, he still died without a sound after entering the tower. Not even a message was sent out. Then what should we do? Leng Mo's heart turned cold when he thought of his master. Was there really no way to deal with that demon? Miss Yun, since you can save my big brother, you should have a way to destroy the tower. Leng Bai looked at Yunjioge with anticipation. This magical white-skinned lady always brought about miracles. If you want to destroy the tower, you have to listen to me. Otherwise, forget about destroying the tower, even your Grey Kingdom might perish. Yunjioge narrowed her eyes and started to threaten them. If they wanted to destroy the formation, they had to listen. Otherwise, if the three brothers didn't cooperate, things would be difficult. Don't worry, Miss Yun. We'll definitely listen to you. Leng Mo and Leng Bai nodded at the same time. Miss Yun, as long as you can destroy the tower and kill Cho Shan, it won't be a problem for you to take my life, let alone make us obey you, Leng Hui said seriously. Big brother. Leng Bai and Leng Mo cried out at the same time. If I die, the next emperor of the Grey Kingdom will be Bai, Mo, you will assist him, Leng Hui said solemnly. He had already written the edict. Big brother, please don't say that. Leng Mo panicked and hurriedly said to Yunjioge, Miss Yun, if someone needs to be sacrificed to break the array, then look for me. I've done all sorts of bad things over the years and deserve to die. No, look for me. Leng Bai pushed Leng Mo away and said to Yun Jioga anxiously, I won't be able to live for long anyway, and I can't leave behind any descendants. I'm useless. I should be the one sacrificing the most. Yun Jioga was rendered speechless by their dedication. Who said that breaking the array would take lives? You're thinking too much. I just need you to be obedient and help me tear down this palace. Leng Bai and Leng Mo were stunned and immediately felt a little embarrassed. Big brother, you're really too much. Aren't you misleading us? Leng Mo laughed foolishly as he scratched his head. That's right. Leng Bai also revealed a slightly childish smile. In front of their big brother, they would always be children. It's big brother's fault. Leng Hui also smiled, but there was endless bitterness behind his smile. Although he had already regained control of his body was already on the verge of collapse after being tormented by Cho Shan all these years. He could die at any time. However, there was no need to tell his two younger brothers about this. They would be happy for as long as they could. They had suffered all these years. Yun Jioga had the same thought, so he did not mention the fact that Leng Hui did not have long to live. Instead, he ordered Leng Bai and Leng Mo to send all the living people out of the palace. Get them as far away from the palace as possible, especially Bao. Her yang qi is weak now, so we have to protect her carefully. Although Yun Jioga had already gotten Zi Shang to remove the demonic qi from Bao's body, this method was too harmful to her body. Now, Bao seemed to have just recovered from a serious illness. Her body was very weak, so they had to protect her carefully. I understand. Leng Mo nodded. He decided to arrange for Bao to stay in the warlord's mansion. As for the other palace maids and eunuchs, they would find 2 large warehouses and lock them up. Then, they would send people to guard them. Cho Shan had been operating in the palace for so many years. Who knew if there were spies left behind by him? It was better to be cautious. Yun Jioga did not care how Leng Bai and Leng Mo arranged those people. She only needed to achieve the effect she wanted. Leng Hui gave an imperial edict, and the people in the palace were all sent away within 2 hours. The empty palace that had lost its human presence felt extremely cold and gloomy even in broad daylight. The green brick floor kept emitting cold air. Miss Yun, can the 4 of us destroy the formation? It was not that Leng Mo did not believe Yun Jioga, but the 4 of them were too few. Of course it's not the 4 of us. It's the 3 of you, Yun Jioga said seriously. Aren't you going to help us? Leng Mo's dark face instantly turned pale. Look at your cowardly face. I'm joking with you. Yun Jioga could not help but laugh out loud. Miss Yun really likes to joke. Leng Mo secretly sighed. So be it. His life was more important. I saw that you were nervous, so I was joking with you. Do you feel much better now? Yun Jioga said with a smile. She felt that she was really talented. 3 words were clearly written on Leng Mo's dark face. No. Alright, stop fooling around. Let's get down to business. Zi Shang, who was hiding in the mark, could not stand it anymore. TSK, he really had no sense of humor. Yun Jioga scratched her face and straightened her expression. She said seriously, let's get down to business. Later, the 3 of you will each lead 300 elite soldiers and listen to my orders. Yes, Leng Mo immediately replied. The 900 elite soldiers were quickly gathered. They were all good seedlings that Leng Mo had carefully selected from the revolutionary army over the years. They were absolutely loyal. The formation has a total of 9 formation corps, but the most important ones are the 2 large ones at the east and west. Leng Bai and Leng Mo will each lead 300 elite soldiers to stand guard there, while Leng Hui will lead some people and destroy the formation corps from the south. Yun Jioga's fingers moved slightly, and purple spirit energy sketched out a formation on the bluestone slab. There were 9 purple light spots clearly marked on it. Chapter 427. Miss Yun, how are we going to suppress these formation eyes later? Yun Mo did not know much about formations and was confused. I'll bring you there first and tell you what to do later. Let's go to the east first. Yun Jioga led the way while Leng Mo, Leng Bai, and Leng Hui followed behind her with the soldiers. They arrived at the Palace of Heavenly Purity first. The Palace of Heavenly Purity is the first formation eye. Later, Leng Mo, bring some men and guard this circle. Under Zishang's control, Yun Jioga's palm shot out a purple mist into the floor and formed purple runes on the tiles. The circle was big enough for Leng Mo and the 300 elite soldiers to stand. We just have to stand in the circle. Leng Mo looked at the runes in confusion. He felt that they could be wiped off with his hand and were not reliable at all. Of course not. When we destroy the formation eyes, many walking corpses will appear in the 2 formation eyes that you're guarding. Your mission is to kill them as much as you can. This circle is to protect you and prevent you from being drowned by the walking corpses. Zishang did not intend to care about their life and death. This defensive circle was requested by Yun Jioga. Drowned? Leng felt his scalp go numb when he heard the word. Where do so many walking corpses come from? Leng Bai did not believe Yun Jioga. Cho Shan has buried a lot of corpses underground. If you don't destroy the formation and attack the tower directly, the undead army and the tower will surround you. Yun Jioga didn't dare to keep them guessing about such an important matter, so he told them everything in detail. Underground. Leng Mo and Leng Bai looked at the floor at the same time. The ordinary bluestone tiles looked disgusting. Stop looking and quickly enter the circle to fight. We have to start breaking the formation at noon. After Yun Jioga made arrangements for Leng Mo, she brought Leng Bai to the broken jade pavilion in the west and asked Zishang to help Leng Bai set up the defensive circle. After the 2 formation eyes were set up, Yun Jioga brought Leng Hui and started breaking the formation from the south. The first formation eye, Pear Garden, dig. Yun Jioga ordered and the 300 elite soldiers started digging with shovels. The beautiful pear garden was destroyed in an instant. The pear trees were chopped down and stacked on top of each other. The outermost layer of brown soil had been dug up, and what followed was a dark red area. Further down were densely packed white skeletons, emitting a bone-chilling aura. These skeletons were stacked on top of each other. There were a total of 9 layers, which clearly looked like a tall tower. Leng Hui's expression was pained. Although these were all Cho Shan's evil deeds, as the emperor, he could not protect his people. He was useless. Don't think about these useless things. Right now, the most important thing is to break the formation. Hurry up and bring some people to burn this bone tower with spiritual fire, Yun Jioga ordered Leng Hui without holding back. Leng Hui had probably been repressed for too long. He was very pessimistic and depressed. This would only hasten his death. Yes. Leng Hui pulled himself together and mobilized the spiritual power in his body. He pinched his fingers and shot out a small gray spiritual fire. The gray spiritual fire was pitifully small when it landed on the white bone tower. Fortunately, there were 300 elite soldiers assisting it. Although the highest cultivation level of these elite soldiers was only at the 8th level of Qi refinement, Leng Mo had always trained them as imperial guards. He had also taught them the secret formations of the palace. At Leng Hui's order, the 300 elite soldiers immediately formed a triangular formation and placed their palms on the backs of their comrades in front of them. Their spiritual power accumulated layer by layer, and finally landed accurately on the white bone tower's spiritual fire. The gray spiritual fire exploded as if red oil had been poured on it. The raging flames instantly burned the white bone tower down. Ghostly wails and wolf howls sounded from the east and west of the formation at the same time. Black Qi emerged from the limestone bricks of the Palace of Heavenly Purity and the broken jade pavilion. They turned into walking corpses with missing arms and legs. They instantly broke through the 2 palaces. Leng Mo's eyes widened as he looked at the walking corpses in front of him. At first, he thought that Yun Jioga was bragging. After seeing the terrifying scene in front of him with his own eyes, he knew that she was not exaggerating at all. "Your Highness, what should we do now?" The soldiers braced themselves and asked as they looked at the endless walking corpses in front of them. "Form the formation and fight back." Leng Mo did not let any of his panic show on his face. His steady attitude allowed the soldiers to quickly calm down. Then, they formed an attack formation behind him. At the same time, the defensive formation left behind by Zishang suddenly lit up. The purple runes all rose into the air and turned into a purple haze that blocked the walking corpses outside. "Kill!" Leng Mo shouted. He raised his sword and chopped off the head of the walking corpses in the front row. The other soldiers were also encouraged by him. Relying on the protection of the defensive formation, they began to kill in all directions. After the initial panic, the broken jade pavilion on Leng Bai's side also began to prepare for battle. "They'll be fine, right?" Leng Hui could not help but worry when he saw the black chi surrounding the Palace of Heavenly Purity and the broken jade pavilion. "You should believe in their abilities. The only way to help them is to break the formation as soon as possible." Yun Jilga understood Leng Hui's worries, but she did not think that Leng Bai and Leng Mo were that weak. "I know. Where's the next formation Leng Hui retracted his gaze and forced himself to focus on the current mission. "The Lotus Pond. Let's go." Yun Jilga led Leng Hui and the 300 elites forward quickly. Soon, they arrived at the side of the Lotus Pond. The originally clear river water had become eerily pitch black. The dark green lotus leaves had all withered. Only a fist-sized pink lotus flower bloomed in the middle of the pond. The bright red stamen of the flower was like a woman's lips. As it opened and closed, the indistinct cries of a woman could be heard. "There's someone underwater," a soldier shouted in panic. Yun Jilga looked over and saw a pale-skinned little girl hiding in the pitch-black water. She was looking at them in fear. Her long black hair was tied to the lotus flower like water plants. The little girl was about 8 years old. She had big black eyes and a small nose. However, her mouth was sewn up with strange black stitches. This little girl reminded Yun Jilga of Tsuetsue, whom he had met when he first fell into the mystic realm. She was also 8 years old, but she had already become the target of the black-robed messenger. "Should we fish her up first?" Leng Hui could not bear to do so. Although he knew that this little girl was no longer human, he still wanted to help her. "She's so young. How pitiful." Many of the soldiers had lost their families because of the black-robed messenger. When they saw the white-skinned little girl in the water, they felt like they were looking at their own pitiful little sister. They all wanted to save her. Some of the soldiers could not help but roll up their pants and get ready to go into the water to save the little girl. Yun Jilga frowned as he looked at the little girl's panicked little face. He could not bear to see her like this, so he did not stop the kind soldiers. At that moment, Zishang, who had been quiet all this time, suddenly stopped them with a stern voice. "Tell those stupid soldiers not to move." Chapter 428. Yun Jilga immediately shot out a beam of spiritual light to stop the soldiers who tried to enter the water. Then, she whipped each of them. "Miss Yun, what are you doing?" Leng Hui's heart ached for his soldiers being whipped. "Did I say you could enter the water?" Yun Jilga's expression was as dark as still water. His sharp gaze swept across the soldiers and finally landed on Leng Hui. "Previously, you promised me that you would listen to everything I say. Now, you're acting on your own without my orders. Is this how you lead troops?" "I was wrong. Please punish me, Miss Yun." Leng Hui immediately apologized. There were still 7 formation eyes waiting for Yun Jilga to remove. He couldn't afford to anger her now. Yun Jilga knew that Leng Hui was affected by the ghost whales, but she still whipped him without hesitation. If he didn't remember this lesson, he'd only make bigger mistakes in the future. By then, it would be too late to make up for it. The 300 elite soldiers realized that even the emperor was willing to be punished. They respected Yunjioge even more. Yunjioge saw that these people were obedient and asked Zishang, "What's so strange about this lotus pond? How can we remove it?" "Ask them to dig up the lotus pond and drain the water inside first." Zishang used Yunjioge's hand to draw 2 purple lines on the edge of the pond. "Dig according to the lines." Yunjioge looked at the narrow purple tunnel. Finally, he divided the 300 soldiers into 3 groups and had them take turns digging. Digging soil was nothing to these elite soldiers with cultivation. Even if they dug with their bare hands, it would not be a problem. Immediately, some brave and skillful soldiers started to dig, but they didn't expect the brown soil to be as hard as a metal plate. "Use your spiritual power to dig," Yunjioge reminded. "If it was that easy, it wouldn't be called a formation eye." The first group of elite soldiers dug for less than the time it took for a stick of incense to burn, and they were so tired that they were panting and sweating. "Let's change to the second group." Yunjioge looked at the shallow tunnel and felt anxious. Breaking the formation was a race against time. If they wasted too much time here, it would be difficult later on. "I'll do it." Leng Hui took a steel shovel and went personally. He was a foundation establishment cultivator and dug much faster than the Qi refinement soldiers. Seeing that the emperor was personally going into battle, the other elite soldiers used all their strength to take turns digging. Finally, they dug a deep channel within an hour. "All right, come out." Yunjioge ordered all the elite soldiers to retreat to a distance of 100 meters from the lotus pond. Only then did he use the evil blade to destroy the mud wall that was blocking the lotus pond. There was a big hole in the mud wall, but the pitch-black pool water did not move at all. It was like frozen ice, and not a single drop flowed out. "Zishang, what should we do?" The water in the pool was too strange. "Take a drop of your blood essence and draw the water out. Be careful, don't get swallowed by the water," Zishang instructed. "All right." Yunjioge pricked his finger and squeezed out a drop of blood. The pitch-black water began to churn when it smelled the blood. It was like a hungry shark that couldn't wait to rush out. Yunjioge wrapped the drop of blood with his spirit energy and circled around the lotus pond. Wave after wave of the pond water wildly chased after the drop of blood. Yunjioge directed the blood towards the wound. The black sticky water surged out and chased after Yunjioge. The water in the lotus pond slowly receded, and the white-skinned girl's expression turned even more horrified. Soon, she was exposed in front of everyone. A rancid smell inundated them. Many soldiers could not help but vomit when they saw the scene in the lotus pond. Beneath the white-skinned little girl were countless terrifying white skulls. Their teeth were as sharp as blades, and they were densely packed and layered, covering the bottom of the lotus pond. If those soldiers had walked directly into the water, they would definitely have been devoured by these skulls until not even their bones were left. The pink lotus was stuck in the bones. Without the protection of the pond water, it was extremely horrified. Its stamen opened its mouth and let out a shrill scream, wanting to summon the pond water back. When the black pond water heard the scream, it immediately stopped chasing and wanted to return to the lotus pond. When Yunjioge saw this, he could only lower the drop of blood that had flown high up to lure the pond water. The pond water hesitated slightly before suddenly expanding several feet. It transformed into a huge black mouth that swallowed the drop of blood. Yunjioge's heart trembled. He wanted to retrieve the drop of blood, but it was too late. At the critical moment, Zishang decisively appeared. He shattered the pond water with a palm and retrieved Yunjioge's blood. The pond water crashed to the ground. It seemed to have realized that Zishang was not to be trifled with. Without hesitation, it turned and charged towards the lotus pond. Trying to leave. A look of disdain flashed across Zishang's handsome face. He flipped his palm and blocked the mouth with a purple mist. The black pond water crashed into the mouth and bounced off before crashing back again. It looked like it would not turn back until it hit a wall. "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and get rid of those bones. While Zishang was fighting with the black pond water, he did not forget to stuff Yunjioga's drop of blood into his mouth. Oh! Yunjioga returned to his senses and hurriedly called out to Leng Hui. Hurry up and destroy this lotus pond. The sooner we can help Leng Leng and Leng Bai, the sooner we can. Leng Hui was still trying to guess who this handsome man who had suddenly appeared was. When he heard Yunjioga's words, he could not care less about guessing. He hurriedly ordered the 300 elite soldiers to start burning the bones in the lotus pond. The gray spiritual fire floated towards the lotus. The lotus let out a piercing scream. White bones frantically suppressed the spiritual fire. Sweat began to appear on Leng Hui's forehead. The 300 elite soldiers also increased the input of spiritual power. Finally, they managed to light the spiritual fire again before it was extinguished. When the lotus realized that it could not extinguish the spiritual fire, its scream changed again. The white-skinned little girl quickly moved her body. She brought the pond of bones with her, wanting to fly back to the black pond water in the passageway. Scram! Zishang raised his hand and shot out a purple mist, sending the white-skinned little girl flying back. The bones fell into the spiritual fire with a bang. Leng Hui, eat your medicine. Yunjioga had once given Leng Hui a bottle of spirit recovery pills. He had wanted to wait until they entered the tall tower to eat them. It seemed like he could not wait until then. Leng Hui's heart ached as he ate a spirit recovery pill. Then, he once again injected spiritual power into the gray spiritual fire. The exploding spiritual fire quickly occupied the entire lotus pond. The lotus kept screaming in pain. It summoned the bones to help it block the fire. The black pond water also sensed danger. The force of the collision became stronger and stronger. However, it was mercilessly suppressed by Zishang. The white bones were gradually burned. Only the white-skinned little girl was left guarding the lotus. When the lotus realized that it had lost, it instantly withered. Its red lips and stamen flew to the white-skinned little girl. I'm begging you. Let me go. Let me go. The white-skinned little girl's sewn mouth instantly recovered. She knelt on the ground and begged Yunjioga. In Yunjioga's ears, that young voice sounded very similar to Tsuetsue's. In the ears of the 300 elite soldiers, it overlapped with their little sister, family, and friends. The 300 elite soldiers, including Leng Hui, all revealed expressions of pity. However, the memory of Yunjioga's whip was still fresh in their minds. Therefore, no one dared to beg for mercy. Good child. Go in peace. Yunjioga sighed. With a flick of his finger, the white bone fire landed on the white-skinned little girl. Chapter 429. The white-skinned girl screamed. Her body quickly melted, revealing a skull with a bright red mouth. The skull screamed and pounced at Yunjioga, looking like it was going to fight to the death. Yunjioga's evil saber rose automatically and formed a long red saber that slashed down. The skull turned into countless pieces that fell into the spiritual fire pool and were burned to ashes. The black water beside the pool evaporated instantly, turning into black gas that shot into the sky and flew toward the Palace of Heavenly Purity and Broken Jade Pavilion. Leng Hui was anxious when he saw this. He wanted to help his two younger brothers immediately. Let's go to the next formation, Zishang said as he pulled Yunjioga's hand. You want to go with us? Yunjioga was surprised. Zishang had always liked to hide and rarely moved with her in front of others. Too slow. Zishang glanced at Yunjioga. The next formation would be even more difficult. It would take them a long time to finish. Then let's go. Yunjioga didn't feel guilty at all. She was only in the Qi refinement realm. It was already difficult for her to break a golden core cultivator's malevolence formation. Next, Zishang led Yunjilga to dig out 100 dead infant corpses, 100 eunuchs' heads, and 100 palace maids' bodies from the Dragon Prince Palace, the guardhouse, and the palace maids' court. These corpses that had been nourished by malevolence were very fierce. However, they couldn't withstand a single blow from Zishang. The group moved forward with great momentum. Leng Hui followed behind them. The more he watched, the more shocked he became. If he hadn't experienced the difficulty of the first two formation eyes, he would have thought that this malevolence formation would be easy to break. This mysterious and handsome man was too powerful. He must have played a part in Miss Yun's previous actions. If he could rope him in, not only could he kill Cho Shan, but the Grey Kingdom would also become more prosperous. The lives of the people would be much better. Unfortunately, he was an outsider. It was too difficult to make him stay, unless, Leng Hui's heart raced at this thought. His pale gray face flushed with excitement. Alright, burn these palace maids' corpses and we can go help Leng Bai and Leng Imo. I suggest we go to Leng Bai first. What do you think? Yunjilga saw Leng Hui's strange expression and thought that he was worried about his two younger brothers, so she didn't think too much about it. Alright. Leng Hui snapped out of his daze and hurriedly nodded. Leng Bai's body had always been weaker than Leng Mo's since they were young, so it was only right for them to save him first. Let's go. Next is the Broken Jade Pavilion. Once we get rid of the Palace of Heavenly Purity, our mission will be complete. Yunjilga encouraged the soldiers. Along the way, the ones who had the hardest time were these 300 elite soldiers. Yes. The morale of the 300 elite soldiers was greatly boosted. They responded in unison and followed Yunjilga and Zishang towards the shattered Jade Pavilion. Within the broken Jade Pavilion, Leng Bai was already an arrow at the end of its flight. More and more walking corpses appeared, and they became more and more ferocious. The defensive circle left by Zishang could no longer withstand their crazy attacks. Many soldiers had already been dragged outside and devoured. Leng Bai numbly brandished the long sword in his hand. Every time he swung it, he would cut down a group of zombies, but they would immediately double in number. The color of the purple defensive circle became fainter, and the runes on the ground became blurry, as if they were in danger of disappearing at any moment. Third Highness, the defensive circle can't hold on any longer. Staying here will only lead to death. We'll help you fight your way out. Please go and meet up with Her Majesty, a loyal soldier begged. Leng Bai was a little tempted. Nobody wanted to die if they could live. However, he quickly remembered what Yunjilga had said. If you want to destroy the tower, you must listen to her. Otherwise, forget about destroying the tower, even the Grey Kingdom might be destroyed. Yunjilga's order was to guard this formation point. He must not leave until the last moment. Leng Bai pulled himself together and said sternly to the soldiers, "This is our battlefield. Even if I die here, I must persevere until the last moment. Your Highness, our deaths are not to be regretted, but you are precious. How can you be sacrificed in this filthy place?" The soldiers were still begging bitterly. "Shut up. If I say defend, then defend. If you dare to shake the morale of the army again, kill without mercy." Leng Bai slashed his sword at the walking corpses outside. His mind was unprecedentedly clear. The remaining soldiers did not dare to persuade him anymore. They could only continue to fight with him. After an unknown period of time, the defensive circle had thinned to the last layer of light. Another 10 soldiers were dragged away by the walking corpses. The remaining 200 soldiers had already compressed to the center and surrounded Leng Bai. Leng Bai looked at the endless walking corpses, and a sense of despair rose in his heart. Was he really going to die here? He had not seen the tower destroyed and Cho Shan killed. He really could not accept this. At this moment, a purple dot of light rose in the distance. It emitted a scorching light like the sun. The walking corpses were like evil spirits that had seen the sun. They let out a series of screams and desperately tried to tie down everything. The next moment, Yunjioga charged in with his men. Miss Yun, big brother. Leng Bai was about to cry tears of joy. Bai, you've suffered. Leng Hui saw his third brother's body so weak that he could not even stand straight. His heart ached and he quickly went up to comfort him. Leng Bai was also extremely excited. He was about to tell his big brother about the predicament he had just been in when he heard a cold but pleasant voice. Next, Palace of Heavenly Purity. Leng Bai turned his head and saw an extremely handsome man in purple standing beside Yunjioga. He exuded a cold but noble aura. It was the unique aura of a person in a high position. It made people respect him and could not help but submit to him. Miss Yun, this is. Leng Bai's consciousness told him clearly that this man was not an ordinary person. He was worth roping in. This is my guard, Yi Zi. Leng Mo is still waiting for us to save him. Let's hurry up. Yunjioga introduced Zi Shang in a simple manner. Yes, hurry up and save Leng Mo. His condition is even worse than mine. I'm afraid we can't hold on much longer. Leng Bai immediately threw Zi Shang to the back of his mind. He was afraid that he would only be able to collect Leng Mo's corpse if he was too late. Reality proved that Leng Mo was indeed the leader of the revolutionary army. His combat ability was much stronger than Leng Bai's. Although there were more walking corpses at his place, none of the 300 elite soldiers had been sacrificed. All of them were in a killing frenzy. This was especially so for Leng Mo. He was like a mad tiger. He could not even come back to his senses when he saw Leng Bai. He roared and slashed at Leng Bai. Leng Mo, look carefully. I'm Leng Bai. This is big brother Leng Hui. Leng Bai dodged the slash and held Leng Mo down while shouting. Leng Mo's bloodshot eyes could not see anything. He shook Leng Bai off and continued to kill. Yunjioga saw this and channeled his spiritual energy into the Thunderfire needle. He then pierced the Dazui acupoint on the back of Leng Mo's neck. The spiritual energy in Leng Mo's body stopped. His eyes rolled back and he fell to the ground. Leng Hui and Leng Bai quickly went forward to check on him. He's too excited. It's good to let him calm down. The killing formation has been broken. You guys better go and rest quickly because we're going to break the tower soon. As soon as Yunjioga finished speaking, a rumbling sound came from the east. In the glow of dusk, a tall tower suddenly appeared in front of everyone. The dull gray tower looked like a pile of bones. Black and gray human heads hung from the eaves of the tower. They stared at Yunjioga and the others with bloodshot eyes. Chapter 430. They won't even let us take a breather. Yunjioga gloomily looked at the white bone tower. If they couldn't enter the wizard tower before sunset, the wizard tower's baleful aura would engulf the entire Grey Kingdom tomorrow, turning it into a living hell. What's there to pant for? Zi Shang's handsome face was calm and composed. What do you think happened to Yu Sha in there? Could he have been killed by Cho Shan? To be honest, Yunjioga was quite worried about Yu Sha. Yu Sha is merely Wan Sha's vessel. Even if something were to happen to him, it wouldn't affect him at all. Zi Shang truly didn't want to see Yunjioga worry for his love rival. He said a few good words for Wan Sha. If it wasn't for the fact that Azure Wave's continent is too low and Wan Sha's physical body and soul couldn't come here, this tower wouldn't even be enough for him to crush it with one hand. If Wan Sha can't come, then how did you come here? Yunjioga was puzzled. Little Meng Hua had said that Zi Shang was the strongest of all her lovers. Of course I have my ways. Zi Shang said nonchalantly, as if he was not worth mentioning. He wouldn't tell Yunjioga that in order to follow her reincarnation, he destroyed his own cultivation, sealed his physical body, abandoned his clansmen, endured the pain of thousands of blades to come to Azure Wave's continent, and finally possessed the body of a purple horn ink python. In order to find traces of her, he united the demon race, but after searching for 1,000 years, he still couldn't find any clues. It wasn't until the demon clan's prophet used his 500 years of cultivation to perform a divination for him that the fated chance was in the Thunder Nation that he came to the Thunder Nation's 10,000 feet abyss and waited for another 100 years. Because the ink python had fused with his soul, he could not recall the memories of his previous life when he first met Yunjioga. He could only rely on his instinct to sign a contract with Yunjioga and then use all methods to get close to her. This was a dark history, and it was better to bury it in his heart and let it rot. Yes, yes, yes. You're the best. Yunjioga thought Zishang was keeping him in suspense again, so he stopped asking. She turned around and glanced at the crowd. Seeing that Leng Mo was gathering the soldiers to enter the tower, she said, "The 5 of us can enter the tower. Let the soldiers stay behind to clean up the palace. We must dig 3 feet into the ground and dig out all the things that Cho Shan buried." The inside of the tower was extremely dangerous. These elite soldiers would only be sending themselves to their deaths if they went in. Instead, they would be a burden. Actually, according to Yunjioga's thoughts, it would be best if even Leng Hui and his brothers did not enter. Although they were at the Foundation establishment realm, they were still trash to Cho Shan. In other words, other than Zishang, anyone who entered the tower would be in danger. However, Zishang insisted on letting the 3 brothers in, saying that they had other uses. As for what it was used for, he refused to say. He only said that Yunjioga would know when the time came. "We'll do as Miss Yun says." Leng Hui was now very trusting of Yunjioga. He felt that all of her orders came from the mouth of the mysterious expert, Yi Zi. Leng Mo had no objection to this. Destroying the tower was important, but cleaning up the palace was equally important. "Do you still have the lightning snake illusionary whip?" Zishang asked Yunjioga. "Yeah, do you want to use it?" After Yunjioga went to the Een Corpse sect, he sealed the Thunder Snake illusionary whip and put it in his storage bag. "Yes, we might need to use it later." Entering the tower was not as simple as just walking. When the time came, they would have to demolish it with brute force. Zishang did not want to waste her demon power, so she turned her attention to Yunjioga's lightning snake illusionary whip. She had no use for it anyway. "Here you go." Yunjioga did not know what Zishang was planning, so he handed it over without hesitation. Zishang took it and wrapped it around his hand. Then, he led Yunjioga towards the tower. The tower looked very terrifying from afar. Up close, the murderous aura condensed into a fog that roared like a devil's roar. The entire tower was tightly shut. There was not a single gap, let alone a door. "Huh, I saw a door the last time I was here." "Where did it go?" Leng Bai was surprised. He had sent people to monitor the area, and he would often come over to observe. He was very sure that there was a door at the bottom of the tower. It must have been sealed by Cho Shan. Leng Hui looked at Zishang, but he asked Yunjioga, "Miss Yun, how do we get in?" "Just open it." Yunjioga had complete faith in Zishang's strength. "Move." Zishang let Yunjioga stand on him, then took out the lightning snake illusionary whip. The thin and soft whip turned into a terrifying beast in his hand. It charged towards the bottom of the tower. With a boom, the tower shook slightly. The human heads hanging under the eaves let out sharp screams. Black gas sprayed towards Zishang. "Guard!" Zishang had no intention of letting Leng Hui and the other 2 lays around. "Yes." Leng Hui, Leng Bai, and Leng Mo took out their Dharma artifacts at the same time. 3 gray longswords made of the same material formed a triangle in the air, casting a powerful defensive light. Yunjioga stayed close to Zishang. This guy was naturally suspicious. He trusted no one but himself. The lightning snake illusionary whip expanded again, turning into a black and white python. Purple lightning coiled around its body. It was comparable to a divine beast. Yunjioga was dumbfounded. The long whip had never been so powerful in her hands. Zishang was indeed powerful. However, looking at the lightning snake illusionary whip's formation, it seemed like it was going to perish together with the tower. Yunjioga's guess was right. The black and white pythons shook their heads and wagged their tails. They coiled tightly around the white bones on the first floor of the tower. Then, with a boom, they exploded. The tower shook violently. The human heads on the third floor were all blasted into pieces. Yunjioga reached out with a trembling hand. He only managed to catch a few pieces of the lightning snake illusionary whip. Look, it's open. Zishang pointed at the huge hole at the bottom of the tower. That's my spirit artifact. If you want to sacrifice it, you should at least discuss it with me. I'll give you a better one when we get back. It was just an Dharma artifact made from the bones of a demon snake. He could easily find a bunch of them. That's my first spirit artifact. This was different. Yunjioga was about to die from anger. You'll have your first precious artifact, immortal artifact, divine artifact. Zishang consoled without any sincerity. Of course, he knew that the lightning snake illusionary whip was Yunjioga's first spirit artifact. He also knew that it was a gift from Dongfang, Quebec. In the past, he did not care about his memory loss. Now, he would not allow Yunjioga to treat a spirit artifact given by another man as a treasure. If you don't, I'll teach you a lesson. Other than verbal threats, Yunjioga did not have any other practical methods. Up to you. But the most important thing now is to hurry into the tower. It's getting dark. If they did not enter the tower now, it would be too late. Then hurry. Yunjioga did not want to bicker with Zishang anymore. At that moment, the smoke and dust at the bottom of the tower had already settled, revealing a huge black hole. It looked like the mouth of a monster, waiting for its sacrifice. Leng Hui felt his scalp go numb. When he was possessed by Cho Shan, he had entered this tower countless times. Although he could not remember what he saw inside, he could sense that it was extremely terrifying. Chapter 431. Let's go. Zishang pulled Yunjioga's hand and led Leng Hui, Leng Mo, and Leng Bai into the tall tower. The first to third floors had already been blown to pieces by the thunder snake illusionary whip. Zishang led Yunjioga and the others straight to the fourth floor. A sweet fragrance assaulted their nostrils. What they saw was an endless expanse of beautiful flowers. The moon spirit flowers at the top kept scattering their beautiful petals. The ground was covered in oil flowers. Butterflies danced in the air. It was as beautiful as a fairyland. Yunjioga could not help but rub her eyes. She said to Zishang in disbelief, "Is this an illusion?" She had thought that the tall tower was like hell. It was filled with evil spirits and walking corpses. It was eerie and damp. No, Zishang answered perfunctorily. He looked around for a tunnel to the fifth floor. I didn't know that Cho Shan was such an interesting person. Yunjioga was about to change her opinion of him. Do you really think that this sea of flowers is for viewing? Zishang looked at her as if she was too naive. Alright, tell me honestly. Are these flowers poisonous, or do they eat people? Yunjioga sighed. She had not seen a normal sea of flowers in a long time. Both. Zishang extended his hand. The purple mist transformed into the shape of a little rabbit. It hopped towards the sea of flowers. The beautiful oil flowers immediately transformed into countless tiny poisonous snakes that pounced over. The beautiful moon spirit flowers turned purple-black and emitted a pungent stench. The beautiful sea of flowers instantly became a paradise for poisonous creatures. The purple mist rabbit suddenly exploded. The oil flower field was instantly blasted open. But very quickly, a large cloud of black mist descended from the top of the tower and filled up the empty space. It was another beautiful sea of flowers. These poisonous flowers are replenished by the killing intent of the tall tower. We can't kill them all, Leng Hui said solemnly. Why don't we blow this place up too? Leng Mo suggested. It felt so good at the bottom of the tower. Blow up my ass. Yunjoga rolled her eyes and said, sure. Use your own Dharma artifacts. Don't even think about touching me. She did not have many Dharma artifacts. If she blew them up, she would become a commander without an army. Then forget it. Leng Mo did not want to use his Dharma artifact either. It was the long sword that grandfather had given the three brothers Darkstar Iron. No need. These poisonous flowers are good stuff. Isn't that female scorpion preparing to evolve into a 5-colored scorpion? Let her come out and eat the poisonous flowers. Cho Shan's tower was terrifying in the eyes of Leng Hui and the others, but it was nothing in Zishang's eyes. It was far inferior to the ruins that Wan Sha had created. It was enough to give Yunjoga's spirit pet some benefits. Can a female scorpion eat this? Yunjoga felt a little nauseous when he thought of how the sea of flowers had turned into a sea of poison. Why don't you just ask it? Zishang was too lazy to explain. Alright. Yunjoga did not summon the female scorpion but summoned the treasure-seeking scorpion instead. Master, does that mean I have work to do? Treasure-seeking scorpion asked impatiently as it wagged its stinger. Its Ling hadn't summoned it in a long time. Other than feeding it the cherry pill, it did not get any extra income. Its wife had lost weight. No, I just want to ask, can your wife eat this poisonous sea? Yunjoga pointed at the beautiful flower sea. Treasure Scorpion's small eyes observed carefully. It wanted to land and observe closer. Yunjoga quickly pulled it back. Don't go die without the shell of a scorpion. These poisons were not to be trifled with. The female scorpion had been lying in the spirit beast bag. When it heard the commotion outside, it could not bear it anymore. It crawled out like the wind and expressed its loyalty to Yunjoga. Ling, I can eat 7. I promise I'll eat all of this poisonous sea. Wife, will you get diarrhea if you eat so much? Treasure Scorpion looked at its wife worriedly. It was about to complain when it was silenced by a stare from its wife. Eat as much as you can. Don't force yourself. Yunjoga looked at the rainbow stripes on the female scorpion's round body. He was very confident in it. Don't worry, Ling. I won't disappoint you. The female scorpion was very excited. Her husband was the one who earned food for her. It was finally time for her to show off. Go! Yunjoga stuffed 2 cherry pills to encourage the female scorpion. After the female scorpion ate the cherry pill, it landed on Yunjoga's shoulder with great vigor. Its round body smashed a small hole in the ground. Treasure Scorpion looked at its wife nervously. It looked like it was ready to go down and help if the situation was not good. However, the female scorpion did not give Treasure Scorpion the chance to show off. It opened its mouth, and the flower sea immediately turned into black fog and entered its mouth, revealing an empty path. Go, go, go. Let's move forward quickly. Yunjoga and Zishang quickly followed behind the female scorpion. Leng Hui and his brothers also quickly followed. The female scorpion killed in all directions. She ate the flowers in front of her and killed the snakes in front of her. Along the way, she cleared a large area. Leng Hui followed behind Yunjoga in shock. He looked at the female scorpion with envy. As expected of a powerful woman. Even a random spirit pet was so powerful. With the female scorpion's help, Yunjoga and the others easily passed through the poisonous flower sea and found the stairs to the 5th level. Good job. Yunjoga generously rewarded the female scorpion with 2 large bottles of cherry pills. Thank you, mistress. The female scorpion hugged the 2 bottles of pills excitedly. After swallowing the poisonous gas, the rainbow stripes on its body had become extremely clear. Now, it only needed to cultivate in seclusion for a few days and it would completely evolve into a 5-colored poison scorpion. Wife, you're really too capable. Treasure Scorpion looked lovingly at its tall and mighty wife. It liked how lively his wife was. This bottle is for you. The female scorpion generously handed one bottle to Treasure Scorpion. Seeing that it did not want it, she said domineeringly, "This is the first contribution I've made. I must share it. I'll make more contributions in the future." In the future, her husband would not have to work so hard to support the family. Don't worry. There will be opportunities to make contributions in the future. Yunjilga encouraged the Treasure Scorpion couple, then sent them back into the spiritual beast bag. Then, he and Zi Shang entered the 5th level. The 5th level did not disappoint Yunjilga. It was gloomy, damp, and strange. In the boundless black fog, ghostly figures flickered, and walking corpses were everywhere. The murderous black fog at the top of the pagoda was so thick that it looked like dark clouds covering the sky. It weighed heavily on the hearts of Leng Hui and his brothers. If even a little bit of the murderous aura leaked out, it would be a huge disaster for the Grey Kingdom. How do we break through this place? Yunjilga was slightly excited. The poisonous sea just now had already given the female scorpion a huge benefit. Would there be other benefits waiting for them on this level? Hasn't the pink female parasite that you're rearing not broken out of its cocoon? This is its opportunity. Zi Shang knew Yunjilga's family like the back of his hand. He knew that she had been worried that the little female parasite might have already turned into a fossil in the cocoon. That was why he specifically mentioned it. Chapter 432. Really? Yunjilga's eyes lit up. She didn't have many pets. The previous mouse was possessed by the cute baby, so it didn't count. Other than the treasure-hunting scorpion couple, there was only the pink mother goo that Junie Chen gave her. Now that she had the chance to hatch the mother goo, of course, she was willing. Of course. Zi Shang saw Yunjilga so happy, but he felt a little guilty. The method he taught was a little cruel, and he hoped Yunjilga wouldn't go crazy. Then what should I do? Yunjilga couldn't wait to take out the mother goo. The pink cocoon glowed in her white palm. Zi Shang took the cocoon and threw it at the place with the strongest evil energy under Yunjilga's expectant gaze. The pink cocoon streaked past Yunjilga like a meteor and disappeared into the boundless darkness. The undead rushed over like sharks smelling blood and drowned the cocoon in an instant. "Ah, what are you doing?" Yunjilga screamed and turned around to save the mother goo. Zi Shang grabbed Yunjilga's shoulder and said calmly, "What's the rush? Your goo should have hatched a long time ago. It's just too lazy to come out. If you don't give it some stimulation, it'll really turn into a fossil. But you don't have to do this. What if something happened? If something goes wrong, I'll save it." Zi Shang wouldn't really let anything happen to the mother goo. "You better do what you say," Yunjilga said angrily and stared at the center of the zombies. The dark black fog suddenly fluctuated. Small whirlpools appeared out of nowhere and grew larger. The entire space shook violently like a raging sea. The zombies were sucked into the whirlpools and instantly torn to pieces before turning back into black fog. The place where the cocoon disappeared suddenly spewed out a black and white light, illuminating the entire space. Then, a black and white butterfly flapped its wings and slowly flew up. It circled above everyone's head with an illusory fog. The butterfly was about the size of a palm. The left side was pure black, and the fine patterns formed the head of a ferocious male ghost. The right side was pure white, but it was a benevolent woman. Right in the middle was a black body with a pink Lolita face on its head. It was pouting and seemed to be huffing and puffing. Yin-Yang Reincarnation Butterfly. Zi Shang raised his eyebrows and sent a voice transmission to Yunjilga. "You're pretty lucky. This goo worm actually evolved into such a rare species after absorbing the little baby's demonic aura. What's so special about this Yin-Yang Reincarnation Butterfly?" Yunjilga stared intently at the black and white butterfly. The Yin-Yang Reincarnation Butterfly, as its name suggests, is capable of reversing the energy of yin and yang. Even in a land of death, it can create life. It is a rare treasure. However, this one of yours is still young. It can only deal with these walking corpses. A yin-yang reincarnation butterfly that had truly completed its evolution could create a small world of its own. It was the best artifact spirit to refine a mustard seed space, and it was also the favorite treasure of mighty figures. Yunjioga's eyes lit up, and she hurriedly waved at the black and white butterfly. "Baby, come to big sister's arms." When the black and white butterfly heard the call, it glanced at Yunjioga and continued to pout. It seemed like it was still angry about being thrown out. "Baby, don't be angry. Big sister will give you some candy." Yunjioga poured 2 cherry pills into her hand. Satisfied, the black and white butterfly landed on her hand. After eating the cherry pill, it obediently squatted on Yunjioga's shoulder. It was really easy to coax. "Baby, I'll call you Feifei from now on." Yunjioga lovingly stroked Feifei's little head. Feifei flapped its black and white wings. It was very satisfied with this name. "Miss Yun, may I ask what species this butterfly is and where can I find it?" Leng Hui looked at Feifei excitedly. He had just seen with his own eyes that the little butterfly flapped its wings and the demonic aura turned into a whirlpool. Those walking corpses and evil spirits were trapped in the whirlpool and could not escape. If he could have one like this, he would not have to worry about the Grey Kingdom being invaded by the demonic aura. "This is a goo worm that a friend of mine gave me. There shouldn't be a second one in the world." Yunjioga shook his head. Junie Chen had cultivated so many goo worms, but he had only produced Feifei, the mother goo. In the process of spinning the cocoon, it was invaded by the Pippi Mouse's demonic aura. That was how it coincidentally evolved into the yin-yang reincarnation butterfly. It would probably be very difficult to duplicate another one. "I see." Leng Hui was extremely disappointed. He really wanted to buy this butterfly with Yunjioga, but seeing how Yunjioga was so fond of this butterfly, he was afraid that she would not part with it. However, he would not be satisfied if he did not ask. Leng Hui was just thinking about what to say when Leng Bai tugged at him and pointed at the empty space where the demonic aura had disappeared. "The passageway has appeared." A black ladder appeared in front of them. "Let's go." Yunjioga waved his hand excitedly. The mother scorpion and Feifei had already benefited. The next level should be the treasure-seeking scorpion's turn. Thinking of this, he was really looking forward to it. Zishang glanced at Leng Hui and the other two with an icy gaze. Then, he pulled Yunjioga's hand and walked up the black ladder. Leng Hui could not help but gulp. Zishang's gaze was clearly warning them not to get any ideas. "Big brother, this is already very good." Leng Bai understood his big brother's intentions. Actually, he really wanted to keep that magical butterfly. However, he knew very well that the entire Grey Kingdom was not worth mentioning in the eyes of these 2 foreign cultivators. Angering them would only bring disaster. Leng Hui helplessly suppressed his thoughts and followed them up the black ladder. The 7th level was a mirror maze. Crystal mirrors that were polished to the point of being extremely smooth filled the entire space. It was as if there were countless figures staring at them, making them dizzy. "How do I get through this?" Yunjioga looked at his reflection in the mirror and felt goosebumps all over his body. "Let me take a look." Zishang sized up the mirror maze. The 6th and 7th levels are all mazes. These mirrors are all formed by illusory qi. It's useless even if you break them. "We can only pass this level if we find the right path," Leng Hui could not help but say. This mirror maze looked very simple, and the mirrors looked very easy to break. However, the fact that it appeared on the 6th level showed how difficult it was. If someone was stupid enough to break the mirror directly, they would immediately be teleported back to the 1st level. The maze would also start spreading from the 1st level. If they could not find a way out, they would be trapped inside forever. This was one of the most complicated challenges in this tower. "I hate walking through mazes. Yunjilga hated these identical paths the most. He could not even turn left or right. Take out your soul-shocking grass. Zishang had already thought of a way. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.